Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm, and you are watching first part of What If Naruto Was Trained by Dark Hashirama. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Drip, 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 drip. Sheesh. I knew you couldn't save yourself. Always weighing me down. Teme, Naruto screamed. W. What? Sasuke blurted out in shock. It took his mind a few moments to catch up with what had happened, even though his freshly awakened Sharingan had seen it. When he noticed Naruto covered in Senbon needles, his expression changed from Naruto you to one of shock. The Uzumaki managed a feeble, now get that lame expression off your stupid face. W. Why? Sasuke questioned, at a loss for words. Naruto uttered, HN. I used to hate you, you know, feeling his strength ebbing away. Sasuke yelled at him, then why did you? You should have minded your own business. Naruto exclaimed. How should I know? My body just moved. On its own, just before he stumbled back and Sasuke grabbed him. In an attempt to comfort them both, Sasuke said, You're going to be fine, Naruto, just don't move. I promised I wouldn't die. Until I became Hokage. I thought my oath would save me. But don't you dare die here. Sasuke, scoffed Naruto, winking. Sasuke thought, no. No, tears streaming down his cheeks. At that precise moment. Once more, Uchiha Sasuke's eyes change. Without any sign of hesitation, he sacrificed himself to save you. He was a shinobi worthy of respect who, in order to protect someone he cared about, threw himself headlong into what he knew full well was certain death. Is this the first time you've seen a comrade die? Such is the way ninja exist, the masked nin said. Sasuke said in a low voice, shut up, as the atmosphere around them abruptly grew heavier. I refuse to pardon you, he uttered while clenching his fists beside him. With a sudden turn, he spun and changed his Sharingan, the pupil moving into a pattern resembling a helix. Amaterasu. He yelled angrily as black flames burst from his eyes, igniting an uncontrollable fire that destroyed the ice dome. W. What? What is this? The masked nin looked on, wondering aloud. He took a small step back when she experienced an overwhelming wave of rage. What is this chakra, and why is he so disgusting and foul? He doesn't resemble the boy I was fighting a minute ago at all. Before the dome melted completely, she thought to herself as she hurriedly escaped from his ice mirror. With his fists shaking in rage, Sasuke uttered, I may not have liked the Dobi when we first met, but he didn't deserve to die. I'll make you pay for this. Zabuza. Sama. Yuki Haku thought to himself as Sasuke charged forward once more, determined to complete the task. A kunai was pushed into his chest as he said, I have failed you, and he was hurled back across the bridge. And Sasuke wept for the loss of his first and only real friend in this cursed world for the first time since the Uchiha massacre. As the mist lifted, the other people on the bridge came into view. Sakura was standing at the very back of the bridge with the client, and Kakashi had his fist driven through Zabuza's chest. When Kakashi withdrew his arm, Zabuza's body collapsed to the floor. Zabuza exclaimed, not bad Kakashi. It looks you win, just before all of his life left his eyes. Kakashi turned to face his student and said, Sasuke? I'll be alright, sensei. Just give me a little time, Sasuke remarked, wiping his tears away. Sasuke. Kun. Kakashi. Sensei. You're both alive. They're pink. Haired teammate exclaimed. Sadly, Sasuke thought, Sakura. Sakura questioned him, what about Naruto? Sasuke. Kun. Where's Naruto? Sasuke remained silent. When Sakura noticed that Sasuke was turning his back on her, she forced herself to stop. Naruto. No, she thought, her eyes growing wide with fear. Even though she didn't think well of the team's Dobi, he simply couldn't be dead. Tazuna told her, I'll stay with you so that you won't be disobeying your sensei's orders, and she nodded a little before moving in the direction where Naruto was expected to be, only to discover that there was nothing there. Sakura inquired, where is he? As Tazuna turned away out of guilt. Looking at the nearby edge of the bridge, Tazuna replied, I think he may have fallen in the water. Don't hold back for my sake. There are times when it's right to give in and shed honest tears, Tazuna said to her sorrowfully. I always got perfect scores on all my tests in school. I memorized each and every one of the 100 rules conduct for a ninja. I used to write them out of pride. We had a test one week and the question was, what is the 25th rule of shinobi conduct? Just like always I wrote it down, no matter what happens, a true shinobi must never, ever, show their emotions. The mission is the only priority. Carry that in your heart and never, ever shed any tears, she said. Tazuna closed his eyes, thinking, so this is what a shinobi is. It's unbearable. A voice called out from the end of the bridge said, so Zabuza failed, huh? No matter, I wasn't really going to pay him anyway. Gato? Tazuna exclaimed, startled to see the businessman with a sizable mercenary force by his side. Gato thought to himself, though I had hoped a few more of you would have died. Can't be helped I suppose, and pointed his walking stick towards them. Ninja are so expensive these days. That's why I always hire Nukanen, they're easier to dispose of after the job is done. Kakashi, Sasuke said, his eyes spinning wildly and his voice shaking slightly. He whispered, look after Sakura and Tazuna for me, just as a massive spiritual warrior with purple chakra burst out of his body. Susanoo. Kakashi yelled, wait Sasuke. But it was too late as Sasuke appeared with a bow and shot a powerful chakra arrow directly at Gato. Was it the Sharingan, then? What took place? Gato didn't even realize he was being attacked when the arrow split his rather large stomach in half. As they all dispersed in an attempt to escape the massive, ethereal warrior, one of the mercs yelled, run for your lives. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. Sasuke let out a great red fireball that covered the mercenaries' location on the bridge. While some of them managed to jump into the water below to put out the flames, the others screamed as they were all burned alive. Sasuke fell to his knees as the construct of chakra vanished. Upon noticing his eyes, Kakashi asked, what happened, Sasuke? A moment later, Sasuke deactivated the Dujutsu and inhaled deeply. I had to kill my best friend in order to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, the next stage of my clan's Dujutsu, he said. Once again, Kakashi asked, what happened? I couldn't save him, Sasuke said, running out of things to say. Kakashi grunted, damn it. Sorry, sensei. It appears that I failed once more. The two went to Sakura's still crying spot and stood in silence together until the villagers, led by Inari, arrived. After glancing back at the remnants of Gato's body, Kakashi sealed Zabuza inside a scroll. At last, the copy. Nin turned to face his group and spoke. Let's get out of here. Land of whirlpools. Subterranean structure. The first sensation he experienced after regaining consciousness was pain, but this time he wasn't bothered by it. Pain was a sign that he was still alive and would not be meeting the Shinigami just yet, so in fact, he welcomed it. The second was disorientation as, in spite of his exhaustion, his eyes forced open, and he moaned upon seeing what appeared to be a white ceiling. Perfect, he was in a medical facility. He forced himself into a sitting position and stammered, Where am I? A fresh, humorous voice said, if I were you, I wouldn't try to move. It was coming from his right. He looked over and noticed an elderly man, possibly even older than the Sandaime Hokage, standing by his bedside and resting on a sizable scroll. Naruto asked, Are you a Shinigami? Just before another wave of pain erupted in his body. No, I'm not, the jovial old man responded. He abruptly became serious, saying, and you feel pain because you're still among the living. However, it's a miracle that you and that girl survived. Both of you should have been crushed by the rampaging whirlpool that sucked you in. The Injutsu in place would only allow for someone of Senju or Uzumaki descent to survive the transition along with their companions. Uzumaki? My name is Uzumaki Naruto, stated the fair-haired man. I know, the elderly man said with a nod. The Kyuubi's third Jinchuriki and the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto stumbled back, Son of a what the hell are you talking about, old man? The old man waved off his words, it can wait until later, and put his hand over the boy's stomach. I have healed most of the damage you sustained and a good night's sleep should do the rest, especially with the Kyuubi's regenerative abilities boosting your already impressive healing factor. Naruto asked as the elderly man turned away, what happened? Where am I? The old man answered and moved to the door at the far end of the room. You are in an underground compound deep in the former land of Whirlpool, specifically below the ruins of Uzushio no Sato, the former home of the Uzumaki clan, he said. Now if you will excuse me, I have another guest to take care of. Naruto threw away the covers and swung his legs over, exclaiming, "Hey! Wait up, old man." The elderly man said, "You shouldn't try to move," over his shoulder. In response, Naruto said, "I can sleep when I'm dead." The old man laughed and said, "You're just like Mito Chan," before leaving the room and Naruto trailing closely behind. What happened to Sasuke, Teme, Sakura, Chan and Kakashi? Sensei? Asked Naruto. And what did you mean before about the Kyuubi and me being the Yondaimi's son? The elderly man said, "Everything in good time, young Uzumaki," as they drew near a door. He said, "Here we are," opening the door. Naruto said, "At least tell me who you are." "Old man, are you a Nukenin?" The old man turned to face the boy and said, "I'm a ghost of the Senju Hashirama, the former Shodai Hokage of Konoha." The Shodai Hokage? A shocked Naruto questioned. No way. You should be dead. The Uzumaki clan were known for their long lives and vitality, which they inherited when they broke away from the Senju clan 300 years ago. And I personally have always had a stronger life force than others of my clan, Hashirama said. Last time I checked I was about 110 years old now. Naruto asked again, Buddha, how are you here? If you were still alive, why aren't you in Konoha? Back before the First Great Shinobi War, one took possession of the 9 Biju, including the Kyuubi, and handed them out the 5 great shinobi villages in order to establish some measure of balance. When the First War began, I realized what a mistake it was, and in the end I nominated my brother Senju Tobirama as the Nidaime Hokage in the hopes that he would find some way to regain some semblance of control over this cursed world. I disappeared after that when my wife Uzumaki Mito offered to bring me to Uzushio, and I've remained here ever since, trying to come up with a way to bring true peace to this world, Hashirama said. As soon as the two entered the room, Naruto said, "Peace?" He looked at the bed at the far end of the room and said, "Haku?" A lone, recognizable figure reclined upon it. However, she remained distinctly feminine in spite of her previous remarks to him to the contrary. "She's a fascinating individual," Hashirama remarked. A member of the Yuki clan known for their height and bloodline, and from what Mito Chan's seals have been telling me, one of the only survivors of the bloodline purge in Kirigakure no Sato. Naruto asked, "Bloodline purge?" Not knowing what it was. "What are you talking about?" To Hashirama's dismay, Hiruzen. "Gaki hasn't told you anything, has he?" The Yondaime Mizukage, the current Jinchuriki of the Sanbi no Kyodaime, ordered the extermination of everyone with a Kekkei Genkei, including the Yuki clan. When my father found out that my mother and I had a bloodline, he tried to kill us. He killed my mother and I killed him. After that, Zabuza Sama found me and took me with him. I've served him ever since, Haku said with his eyes widening. "Where am I?" Hashirama replied, "You're in the ruins of Uzushio no Sato. You're lucky to be alive. If the kid here hadn't fallen in the whirlpool with you, then you would most certainly be dead right now." Haku trailed off. "Zabuza Sama. Is he?" "It's him," Hashirama informed her. "My wife placed monitoring seals all over the continent. One of them was in the land of waves watching your battle." Zabuza San was cut down by the copy cat. "Then, please, murder me," Haku asked. "I have no reason left to live. You were the hunter. Nin with Zabuza, and now because he's dead you want to die too?" "Why?" asked Naruto. "Everyone needs a reason to live," thought Hashirama. "As for you, Yuki girl, you have a new master now." "You?" a bewildered Haku inquired. "No, not me," a laughing Hashirama shook his head. He pointed to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and said, "I mean the young Uzumaki here." "Me? Why me?" a startled Naruto questioned. "I don't want a servant." Hashirama waved off his worries, pulling out a chair and taking a seat. "Well, you've got one now, deal with it," he said. Sage knows that he did when he took control of the Biju after defeating Madara at the Valley of the End. It's the spoils of war, kid. Get used to it. Haku trailed off. Naruto. "Kun. My new master." Hashirama said, "Now, I think you had some questions for me?" "I'm curious to know what's happening," Naruto stated emphatically. Hashirama questioned. "Are you sure you wish to know? You may not like the answers." Yes, Naruto gave a nod. You said something about Jintokia or something. It's pronounced Jinchuriki. It's a word my wife invented and used to describe those with biju sealed within them, Hashirama said. 80 years ago, shortly after the clan wars ended and the shinobi villages were founded, my rival Uchiha Madara left Konoha and used his Sharingan to take control of the Kyuubi no Yoko. He and I fought what basically amounted to a deathmatch at the place now known as the Valley of the End. After I defeated both Madara and the Kyuubi, my wife sealed the fox inside her own body to keep it from falling into the hands of the Uchiha clan. Why? You defeated the Kyuubi and someone who was powerful enough to control it? The scale you're talking about is. Naruto went on. By the standards of today, what Madara, the Kyuubi and I were capable of was almost inhuman. Even today a lot of people recognize that we were in a league of our own, Hashirama said. In fact, most regard my strength as that of legend and myth, like the tales of the Rakuda. Sennin, the founder of the shinobi world. You're Hashirama. Sama? Haku asked, his eyes going wide. The Shodai Hokage. A wooden pedestal appeared at Hashirama's side and he laughed, saying, if you require proof then. Haku trailed off at the sight, Mokuton. With my Mokuton jutsu, I can control and suppress the biju when I integrate my Yodan chakra, grinned Hashirama. My wife kept the Kyuubi locked away and my power constantly suppressed its influence until we parted all those years ago. Hopeful, Naruto said. Can you help me control the Kyuubi? Given the demon's inhuman strength, he had been afraid that one day its power would overpower him and the creature would escape ever since he discovered he carried the demon fox inside of him. I have, in response, Hashirama said. You have the Mokuton bloodline just like me, however, because of the Kyuubi's presence in your body. Your bloodline hasn't awakened, so I used my power to restrain the fox's influence and forcefully unlock your bloodline. I have a bloodline? A startled Naruto questioned. I am the only member of the Senju clan to have the Mokuton bloodline because my mother had a particularly strong chakra much like your own mother, Hashirama went on. My mother? Asked Naruto. At the end of her life, my wife selected a successor from Uzushio to contain the Kyuubi, Hashirama said. The one she chose was a young Uzumaki girl with a powerful chakra that could restrain the biju much like my own power. She was your mother, Uzumaki Kushina. Uzumaki Kushina. Was all Naruto said. She was brought to Konoha shortly before Iwa, Kumo and Kiri launched a full-scale assault on Uzushio. Konoha and Uzushio were allies, but Konoha abandoned Uzushio and left them to die, especially now that there's someone who could recreate the Uzumaki clan in Konoha, Hashirama said bitterly. Hiruzen. Gaki was the one who gave the order to leave Uzushio to fend for themselves. Mito and I have never forgiven him since. I don't believe you. There's no way the old man would do something like that. Naruto yelled. Really? What if I told you he and the Eldersa, my brother's former students, ordered the extermination of the Uchiha clan only a few years ago? Hashirama replied. What? Inquired Naruto. The thing about the Senju, Uzumaki and Uchiha clans is, we're all distantly related to each other. Since Konoha was founded, all three clans have been pushed to the brink of extinction, Hashirama responded. Because of the Kyuubi attack on Konoha 12 years ago, the Uchiha clan came under suspicion, and because of their unjust treatment they were planning a rebellion only to be betrayed by Uchiha Itachi, the heir of the Uchiha clan, and were systematically wiped out by order of the Konoha higher ups. Why? You've got to be kidding me, Naruto choked out. Wasuk's clan exterminated by Konoha at the old man's command? And my clan was abandoned to perish? Why? 12 years ago someone attacked your mother, murdered Hiruzen. Gaki's wife, ripped the Kyuubi from your mother's seal and summoned it to attack Konoha. Your father then sealed the Kyuubi in you, Hashirama went on. With wide eyes, Naruto trailed off, my father. Hashirama stated emphatically, your father was the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. He was a master of Jika, Kan ninjutsu, surpassing even my brother in some areas, and his mastery of Fa, Injutsu was equal to any Uzumaki. He was a true random genius if there ever was one. My father sealed the Kyuubi within me, said Naruto, clenching his fists beside him. He said, I feel like hitting something, and as he pounded his fist against the wall, wooden planks burst across the space. Did I do that? It appears your affinity with Mokuton may be even greater than mine, Hashirama thought. Simply amazing, Haku remarked. Yes, Hashirama gave a nod. That's not all I have to tell you, young Uzumaki. Your sensei was your father's student and he didn't tell you anything. Your godfather, Jiraiya of the Sanina one of Hiruzen. Gaki's students and my granddaughter's former teammate abandoned you and even now is making large amounts of money writing porn books. With tears streaming down his face, Naruto angrily questioned. Why? Why are you telling me all of this? What's the point? Is it to make me feel worthless? I still have friends that care about me and that's all that matters. Hashirama said, friends? I looked in on those friends of yours with disdain. Haruno Sakura, a fangirl who constantly hits and abuses you. Uchiha Sasuke, someone who just gained the Mangekyo Sharingan which can only be awakened when you believe that you've killed your best friend, and Hitaki Kakashi, the man who won't tell you anything and won't train you, leaving you the same weak fool. Naruto fell to his knees, tears spilling out of his eyes, and yelled, "S. Stop." Haku yelled, "Enough," and attempted to get out of bed. I won't allow you to hurt Naruto Sama anymore. Hashirama waved off her statement, I'm just trying to make him understand his current situation. When your parents died, at the very least you should have been given to my granddaughter as Tsunade, since my wife was an Uzumaki, then Tsunade would be classed as your next of kin. However, judging by the fact that you remained in Konoha all these years, it's likely that Hiruzen Gaki wanted you abused and forced into a life of servitude, believing him to be your savior and the only one you could turn to. Begging to know why, Naruto exclaimed, Why? Why did it turn out like this? Because this world is cursed, was Hashirama's simple response. Love turns to hatred and that hatred turns to revenge and war, which creates more hatred. Power and greed have corrupted this world into what it is today, perhaps even worse than the clan wars. Haku trailed off as she watched her master gather his courage. Naruto Sama. Naruto questioned, what must I do? I don't want anyone else to grow up like me. The only way to establish any kind of true peace would be to unite the shinobi world and then abolish the ninja system completely. With the entire world under a single banner, there would be no need for ninja anymore, Hashirama replied. What will you do? What actions can I take? Naruto thought, I won't be able to look at the old man the same way again if I go back to Konoha now. What is a village? A clan? What is it? What are the ninjas? The crimes committed by Konoha are abhorrent. They are a perversion of the works of the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages. And my father was a hero who was prepared to give up his own family in order to preserve a village that despised all he had stood for. Your answer? Asked Hashirama. Then Naruto said, I will stand with you. What do I need to do to bring peace to this cursed world? Land of whirlpools. Subterranean structure. 6 months had gone since Naruto and Haku arrived in the former Uzumaki clan homeland. Hashirama had been teaching Naruto a variety of jutsu, including Mokuton, which he had mastered after using the Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu extensively, and his massive chakra reserves, which were enhanced by the Kyuubi sealed within him and granted to him as a member of the Uzumaki clan. Then, shortly after his arrival, there was that incident. Flashback starts. Naruto was facing a huge barred metal cage door that led to a pitch black interior. His vision cleared and he saw the enormous demon fox for the first time. 2 massive red eyes opened and glowed in the darkness. Senju Hashirama stood behind, their minds connected in a way reminiscent of his relationship with his late wife. So my jailer finally decides to grace me with his presence, the mocking Kyuubi no Yoko uttered. Upon noticing the senior Senju, he continued, and you dare to bring that wrinkled up old fool with you? Kyuubi, you still harbor so much hatred, Hashirama remarked gravely. The Kyuubi mocked them, saying, I can respect your strength as one of his sons, mortal. But do not think you can come here and speak to me with such a tone. Hashirama finally questioned. This is a Shiki Fujin, correct? Yes, snarled the Kyuubi. A kinjutsu of the Uzumaki clan that my previous host taught to the one who ended up sealing me here. I see, Hashirama said, nodding and putting his hand on the cage's doors. What are you doing? Asked the Kyuubi. This, the senior Senju replied, using chakra to channel the appearance of 2 figures next to the seal. The Kyuubi growled, you. Yandaime Hokage. Kushina. Uzumaki Kushina inquired, what happened? Minato. Kun? Namikaze Minato blinked in surprise, Kushina? The two turned to face Naruto, who spoke with wide eyes, Mom. Dad. N. Naruto? Son? Kushina questioned, appearing almost shocked. How is this possible? We were only supposed to appear when either the seal collapses or when you were finally ready to gain control of the Kyuubi's power, said Minato. That would be my fault, Hashirama said. Shodai. Sama? Minato inquired, startled. I'll depart to meet your son, Hashirama said, turning to walk away. He is strong and will gain control of the Kyuubi without you. Spend your last moments in this life with the son you never had the chance to know. He will handle the rest just like you believe he will. Thank you, Minato said, bowing his head in appreciation for the opportunity to spend time with his son without having to worry about the Kyuubi escaping. Flashback termination. He created up to 2,000 shadow clones a day with the Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu after 6 months of nearly constant training. He also learned his father's Hiraishin no Jutsu and Rasengan, adding his wind affinity to the latter to increase its power. That might make him one of the greatest shinobi alive, especially when combined with his enormous chakra reserves and Mokuton bloodline. With Haku by his side, Naruto said, You wanted to talk to me? Yes, a quiet and bedridden Hashirama answered. I don't have much time left in this world and there is one last thing I must tell you before I pass on and meet Mito. Shan again. Naruto sadly questioned. What is it? When I chose Tobirama as the Nidaime Hokage and left Konoha, I found Madara's discarded Mangekyo Sharingan. I had them implanted and it evolved into an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. In the beginning nothing happened besides the fact that I gained the Dujutsu's abilities, however 9 years ago the eyes evolved into the Rinnegan, Hashirama said. Rinnegan? Inquired Naruto. It was the Rakuda. Sennin's Dujutsu, Hashirama went on. From what I understand of what happened, you can't awaken the Rinnegan without both the Senju and Uchiha's combined power. I've taught you my Mokuton Jutsu and with your other abilities I honestly believe you can save this cursed world. Naruto asked, What happened to your eyes? I transplanted them on a young Uzumaki girl about a year older than you and implanted my original eyes back into me, Hashirama replied. He said, Hanoka, as a stunning woman with long red hair and 2 swords strapped to her back showed up by his bed. Uzumaki Hanoka said, Yes, Hashirama. Sama? Hashirama gave the command, saying, I want you to guide and aid Naruto in his journey. It is going to be completed, Hanoka bowed. He had saved her when Uzushio was destroyed, and she had been his trusting and obedient servant for years, keeping him sane after his wife died. Upon his passing, she would take up his heir, a young lad she could eventually call family and who had grown up to be the elder Senju's apprentice. Honoroka is aware of the location of the Uzumaki girl, Hashirama informed his trainee. Her name is Karen. If you are to succeed then you will need allies because there will be those who wish to stand against you if for no other reason than because you exist. In the end, war may be the only answer. I'll need an army if I'm going to fight a war, thought Naruto. Or a really good team. With a smile, Hashirama said, From now on, you may choose your own path. He then closed his eyes. Ruins of Uzushio. Land of whirlpools. As the sun began to rise over a deserted battlefield, a lone shinobi and 2 kunoichi stood atop a collapsed structure. Clad in hunter nin garb, Yuki Haku bore the enormous Kabikari Cha securely fastened to her back. After learning that the people of Wave had named their bridge after her new master, Naruto, she had surreptitiously returned to the land of waves and taken up residence at her former master's grave. The other kunoichi was a long-haired, redhead beauty wearing a short white skirt, mesh armor underneath, and a purple, sleeveless kimono with yellow trimmings held close by a traditional obi with a long, streaming bow tied to it. The Uzumaki clan's coveted sealing blade, the Uzu no Tsurugi, and the Nidaime Hokage's sword, the Raijin no Ken, were strapped to her back. Eventually, a man with a hood over his head and a black cloak with a yellow outline appeared right in front of them, with a hint of blonde hair showing through. He planted one foot on the stone step in front of him, turned to face the others, and the front of the cloak parted. Through the tiny opening in his cloak, black and crimson armor and a white kitsune mask were visible. Naruto said clearly, No one must know who I really am from now on until I say otherwise. I need a name that I can use without giving anything away. How about Menma? Yes, that name will do just fine. Even while he was still in the academy, Uzumaki Naruto had always been able to stay away from many Jonin and Shunin as well as the Anbu of Konoha. He was apprehended only after carrying out his lonesome prank on the Anbu headquarters. Even the Hokage monument, which was visible to everyone in the village during the day, had been painted by him, but no one had noticed until he was applying the final touches. It came as no surprise that he had managed to slip into Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death, with his two new allies. The three touched down silently on the branches of multiple large trees, Hinoka whispering, "There she is," as they peered out from their cover to see what was waiting for them. Just in front of them were three figures. A girl about Naruto's age with her signature blood-red hair, and two boys covered in scars. Upon closer examination, it was evident that she was wearing glasses, presumably to hide her dujutsu from view. Naruto inquired, "Is that Hashirama Sensei's Rinnegan?" "Yes," Hinoka responded. "He transplanted them on her when she was still a girl after Suna Ninja raided her home village and killed her parents. As a member of the Uzumaki clan, she also has a powerful chakra, though hers is able to heal others when they bite her, making her potential as a medic. Nin capable of rivaling both Hashirama Sama and Tsunade Sama. She also has the ability to sense the chakra of others from long range, making it very difficult to get the drop on her. She is no doubt already aware of our presence, however, given the last mission that Hashirama Sama assigned her, it's no surprise that she hasn't called on us yet." "Mission?" asked Haku. "Hashirama Sama tasked her with infiltrating the village that Orochimaru of the Sannin founded, known as Otogakure no Sato," Hinoka said. "She was able to do so and was assigned to a genin team to infiltrate the Chunin exams disguised as Kusa Ninja. From what I understand, he is setting the stage for something that I hope she knows about." "We have guests," Naruto announced. "Something dark and foul is coming our way." It had taken some getting used to, but he could sense even the most cunning enemies thanks to his negative emotion sensing ability, which he acquired by violently restraining the Kyuubi's influence. It was obviously one of the Kyuubi's powers, and it explained why he was known for being a force of nature that materialized whenever hatred and malice from humans came together to destroy them from the face of the shinobi world. He was still figuring out how to limit its useful range. "Oh shit," Hinoka muttered, watching as three figures emerged from the clearing below and charged the three auto. Nin in disguise. "What's wrong?" asked Haku. "The middle one," according to Hinoka. "That's Suna's Jinchuriki. He's the youngest son of the current Kazekage and is completely bat shit crazy. When I say crazy, I mean off of the fucking charts. The guy kills to prove his existence, as he says." Naruto trailed off, then narrowed his eyes, the Ichibi. "Hinoka, Haku. Change of plans, prepare a containment seal and ready your sword, Hinoka. Because not only are we recovering Karen-san, but we're also taking the Ichibi while we're at it." After losing his best friend and going on the mission to the Land of Wave 6 months prior, Uchiha Sasuke was not in a good mood. The Mangekyo Sharingan, the eyes he'd awakened, was both a blessing and a curse. The more he used that stage of his Jujutsu, the worse it made him see, until finally he would become blind. But it also gave him the ability to exact revenge on his fallen comrade. As per the tablet found in the Naka Shrine, he could obtain an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan by gathering the Sharingan of another. However, to the best of his knowledge, all his clansmen had been burnt to prevent others from achieving that exact same goal. There was only Itachi left, and since he also possessed the Mangekyo Sharingan, he was also experiencing its effects and would eventually need a replacement. That clarified the reason for his spared fate. He was left alive as a spare by Itachi, who instructed him to awaken the same eyes as him in order to gain even more power than he already had when the time came. From what he could gather from the few journals about the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, only one man in the clan's entire history had awakened their Mangekyo Sharingan and harvested another's Mangekyo Sharingan rather than the normal Sharingan. Later on, that man gained notoriety as the greatest Uchiha to have ever lived, only surpassed by Senju Hashirama, who was regarded as the greatest shinobi of his time. Uchiha Madara was his name. He could hardly discover anything about the man save the fact that he was regarded as one of the deadliest shinobi in history and that people feared him greatly. With just a glance, he could command the Kyuubi no Yoko and call it to battle on his behalf due to his immense power. It seems that he overcame Naidame and Sandame Tsuchikage on his own, demonstrating his immense strength. The idea of what Itachi could do with that kind of power made Sasuke shudder. Many things had happened since the mission to the Land of Wave. Naruto's name was carved into the memorial stone, and he and Kakashi had stood in front of it many mornings, just staring at the names of the deceased. He had been informed by Kakashi that his own teammate had died shortly after giving him his transplanted Sharingan, giving his life to save him and his other teammate. He was considered both a black sheep and a hero. Their teammate since then, Sai, was a boy, and the two of them had come dangerously close to killing him several times. Despite his mastery of the ninja arts, he was the most obnoxious person he had ever encountered. He seemed to be the total opposite of Naruto, perhaps even more so than Sasuke, and that said a lot. Sakura had fallen into a sort of depression and was now even more fixated on him. She seemed to have relied on Naruto to keep her from becoming overwhelmed by her own inadequacy, and now that he was gone, she had no one to lift her spirits after every setback. Then, he might think about dating her if she truly worked hard to develop a rack and become a strong kunoichi. The Hyuga heiress is the only girl he would even think about dating right now, and not because of her wealth but rather because of her will to become a formidable kunoichi. Of course, the ridiculously big chest she always concealed under that coat of hers was a bonus. He didn't because she liked him instead, and he wasn't going to pursue a girl who had been in love with his best friend, even if the Dobi had never found out. In addition, the girl detested him and rightfully held him responsible for Naruto's demise. Naruto might not have perished if he had been a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, or a little bit better. Although he no longer held himself responsible for the events, he still felt guilty because they both understood the risks involved in choosing to carry out the mission after confronting the demon brothers. Survivor's guilt is an awful thing. They had easily passed the first task following a minor altercation with some Auto. Nin's and Yakushi Kabuto, a fellow Konoha. Nin, after Kakashi had entered their names in the Chunin exams. The second task was essentially an unrestricted battle between the genin teams in Training Ground 40. 4, also known as the Forest of Death, with the big tower in the middle serving as the finish line. A powerful futon jutsu had blasted Sai away from them as soon as they entered the forest, and Akusa. Nin had materialized in front of them. The woman laughed, kukakuku, as she appeared to slither across a nearby tree branch. So you're Uchiha Sasuke. Kun. Let's see how you stack up against your brother. Sasuke asked her, you know Itachi? As his Sharingan began to spin erratically. This girl is not like the other girls. Her chakra is much too big to be that of a genin. Who is she? What does she want? The Kusa. Nin said, kukakuku. Such beautiful eyes, and then he quickly vanished. She moves quickly, Sasuke observed while following her with his Sharingan. I am unable to keep up. When she resurfaced in front of him, she punched him in the stomach with her fist, sending him flying into a nearby tree and plummeting to the forest floor below. Sasuke. Kun. Sakura exclaimed in alarm, but then a wave of murderous intent overcame her, immobilizing her as the thought of her own demise raced through her head. Dear little girl, the woman chuckled. A nobody like you has no place here, she remarked, turning to face Sasuke's fall position. As Sasuke wiped away the blood dripping from his mouth, he thought, she hits hard. She's easily Jonin level. She's not even a Chunin or Genin. Glaring up at the Kusa. Nin, I might have to use the Mangekyo, he asked. Who are you? You're not here for the exams. You're here for something else, and I bet it's got something to do with me. Kukakuku, laughed the woman. I'm here to offer you something that no one else can. Fighting for Konoha has made you weak, and though you are skilled, you are still nowhere near Itachi's level at your age. With narrowed eyes, Sasuke asked, what do you know about Itachi? The woman smiled broadly and said, I can give you the power to face him if you join me. I know where he is and what he is after these days. Join you? Never, Sasuke said in an instant of rejection. The Kusa. Nin thought, maybe I should give you a little taste of the power I can offer you? As you are now, you can't possibly defeat Itachi. Sasuke's scowl grew more intense as his Sharingan began to spin and change into its Mangekyo form. Do not speak to me of Itachi. That's, the shocked woman thought. Tsukuyomi, Sasuke murmured, causing the Kusa. Nin to freeze as their eyes met. Swiftly forming a pair of hand seals, Sasuke shot a massive ball of fire upwards towards the woman. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. The woman said, damn, as the flames engulfed her. As she flung herself backwards out of the flames, it exploded in a torrent of fire, her clothes burning and the skin on her face peeling to reveal another, male face underneath. He shares Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. Sakura was taken aback to see the real face of the woman, a man, and thought, "You're Orochimaru of the Sannin?" She exclaimed, startled, recalling the pictures of the fabled betrayer of Konoha. Sasuke thought to himself as he landed next to his teammate, "Orochimaru, huh? What's an S? Rank criminal of Konoha one with me? I thought you were smaller than I am," Orochimaru mocked them. "You're just like Itachi. You even have the same eyes as he does." Sasuke growled, "I am nothing like Itachi," as black flames burst from his eyes. "Amaterasu." Orochimaru thought to himself as the black flames engulfed him, "That's too much." His jaws parted, allowing another Orochimaru to leap out and then sprint off as the first one's remnants burned. "I'm sure Sarutobi Sensei will notice and come here personally to stop me if I use all of my power here. These Uchiha, cursed, making me run for my life twice." "You move quickly," Sasuke remarked. "But you can't escape my eyes." "I swear, I won't forget this," Orochimaru declared, appearing to disappear into the tree's bark. He said, "Mark my words, Sasuke-kun. Your body will be mine," and then vanished in an instant. "My body." Sasuke trailed off as his vision abruptly became blurry and his eyes returned to normal. He cursed, "Damn," and steadied himself. "Sasuke-kun?" Sakura inquired with concern. "Sasuke, I'm fine, Sakura," he said, dismissing her worries as his vision came back. "Let's find Sai and find a scroll we can use to finish the task." Uzumaki Karen had always been unique. When she was a little child, Suna attacked and destroyed her home village, killing her family. She had always had the ability to sense other people's chakras, so she was able to alert her parents to the impending Suna forces. Despite her warning, the village was completely destroyed, forcing her to escape. Her life was irrevocably altered when the Suna Nins cornered her after pursuing her. She was granted the Rinnegan by Senju Hashirama, which gave her the ability to defend herself and exact revenge on those who killed her parents. After she had killed the Suna Nins and buried her parents, Uzumaki Hinoka, a distant cousin, came to take her to Hashirama Sama so he could teach her how to use the gift he had given her. She took the offer because she had nowhere else to go. Following 3 years of training, she was assigned to infiltrate Otto. A year later, she found herself participating in the Chunin exams in the Forest of Death. The sight of the 3 Suna Nins that had fallen in front of her indicated that she was about to get her chance to kill them, and her 2 teammates were liars with grandiose illusions. She was able to identify one of the 3 people observing from a distance as Hinoka, her clansman, but the other 2 seemed off to her. One was a shining light with a massive and chaotic chakra beneath the surface like a raging storm, and the other's chakra felt cold as ice but with a spring feel. Fascinating. Returning to the topic at hand, she felt uneasy about the 3 Suna Nins in front of her. The most striking was the boy in the middle, who possessed a chakra that could almost be compared to Hinoka. Nichan's at his age, while the other 2 seemed terrified of their ally. This boy, like the one with Hinoka, had a second chakra bumbling just beneath the surface. Another clue to his intentions was the murderous intent he was disclosing. "Give us your scroll, sand trash," said one of her fellow idiots. The blonde Suna Kunoichi looked worriedly at her brother and trailed off. "Gaara." "Tamari," murmured the other Suna shinobi to her. "Avoid," he cautioned. Tamari retorted, "But Kankuro." "We are unable to stop him," Kankuro muttered sorrowfully. "Sabaku kya," Gaara said coolly as sand shot out of the ground and snagged hold of the person making the demand. As the sand enveloped him, the Otto Nin exclaimed, "W. What the hell?" in shock and terror. "Sabaku sa," Gaara exclaimed with delight as he raised his hand and balled it into a fist. The Otto Nin that had been captured was crushed and blood was splattered all over the place as the sand collapsed. The other Otto Nin fell backward onto his rear and tried to push himself away, stammering in fear. "No way," Karen said, impressive, as she emerged behind her final teammate. "Well, since you just killed one of my teammates, I can no longer pass this task, so I think I'll stop playing around." Her ex-teammate asked, "W. What? Karen?" as she pulled on his head. To the surprise of the 3 Suna Nins, Karen whispered, "Ninjendo," as she tore out the Otto Nin's soul and threw it away carelessly. Kankuro questioned, what the hell was that? Tamari asked, he was your own teammate and you just killed him. Why? Oh please, Karen said, rolling her eyes at the thought. With her glasses off, she said, my allegiance lies elsewhere, exposing her gray, rippled eyes. Now to deal with you three. Gaara said emphatically, you will prove my existence, as sand whirled around the Uzumaki kunoichi. Sabaku kya. Karen's eyes lit up, this trick again, huh? She wondered. Gaara uttered, Sabaku saw. First. Tendo. Shinra Tensai, Karen said coolly as the sand moved and, much to everyone's surprise, repelled her. So weak, she said, lifting her up. She said, Tendo. Bansho Tenon, and as soon as she finished speaking, Gaara was drawn to her. With concern, Tamari yelled, Gaara. And swung her big metal fan. She yelled, Futon. Kamaitachi no Jutsu. As a gust of wind blew directly at Karen. Gakido. Fa, Jutsu Kya, in, Karen muttered, raising her other hand and appearing to take in the gust of wind. Tamari was shocked to see that her jutsu had been rendered useless and inquired, how did she? Before they could see it, Karen's fist erupted as Gaara was dragged toward her, splintering his sand defenses and sending him rolling across the floor. Sensing that his untouchable brother was being treated like an insect and quickly getting over his shock, Kankuro sent Karasu to attack the Uzumaki kunoichi. Shirado, Karen uttered as her arm appeared to separate, unveiling a lengthy, tube-shaped apparatus in place of the supposed organs and blood. Before a burst of chakra shot out of the barrel, tearing Karasu in two and scattering its remnants all around her, the inside of the tube glowed green. Surprising himself, Kankuro exclaimed, what the hell is she? Is she some kind of human puppet? My jutsu are useless against her. Gaara was just hit for the first time in her life, and Kankuro just lost Karasu. A wave of pure insanity and killing intent passed over the area, and Tamari thought in fear that at this rate, Gaara might actually release that creature. Karen trailed off, that chakra. And then squinted. She exclaimed, Geto. Chakura Kusari. As several chains of chakra burst from her back and buried themselves in the earth behind her. They burst upwards, enveloping Gaara, who was covered in sand that had assumed the form of an enormous raccoon the size of a human, and then wrapped around him, dragging him to the ground. The sand went limp and the demonic chakra vanished, exposing Gaara's unconscious form. No way. Tamari said, sounding shocked. She was suddenly struck in the neck by two senbon, and she collapsed to the ground, dead. Fearfully, Kankuro yelled, Tamari. Just before he was hit in the back of the neck and went limp. Naruto said, so that's the power of the Rinnegan, as he and Hinoka fell to the ground. Karen answered, I was wondering when you'd make your appearance. She nodded to Ichibi Jinchuriki, who was standing motionless, saying, we should get out of here before someone decides to look into the demonic chakra this guy released. Not just yet, in reply Naruto. Hinoka. Hinoka cried out, Fuin. Kai. As she opened the seal that held the Ichibi. Whispering, here we go, Hinoka pulled the Uzu no Tsurugi from its sheath and impaled Gaara through the back. She then swiftly removed the blade and stowed the sword in the nearby kettle that she had unsealed. After being torn from Gaara's body, the demonic spirit was swiftly drawn into the kettle and imprisoned there. She muttered, Fa, Injutsu, Urashi Fuin, as the Ichibi was sealed. It's finished, she said. Naruto questioned, looking down at the now deceased Sabaku no Gaara, a Jinchuriki huh? He doesn't deserve to die like this. Karen questioned, perplexed. You mourn the enemy? With a, I'm a Jinchuriki too, Naruto answered. I know how it feels like to be hated and despised because of what I am. I wouldn't wish our fate on anyone no matter who they are even if it isn't so bad anymore. Excellent, Karen said, giving a satisfied nod. Geto. Rini Tensai no Jutsu, she said, forming a hand seal. At that moment, Gaara's body began to glow green, signaling the return of life. That jutsu is always exhausting, she said, gasping for air. Naruto wondered, a resurrection technique? It's time for us to leave, Haku said. Naruto nodded, agreed, and extended his arms. He yelled, everyone, grab on, and they all hurriedly seized his arms. Hiraishin no Jutsu, and in an instant they vanished. When the Jonin tasked with training his three children told the Ondaime Keisuke what had happened to him, the man became extremely irate. He didn't believe what he had been told at first, but when he realized that he had lost the Ichibi and that it was now in the possession of an unknown person, his incredulity quickly turned to rage. The Kazekage yelled indignation, "Are you telling me that not only was Gaara defeated but Shukaku was taken by some genin child from some backwater village?" "Yes, sir," Baki responded. "Gaara is alive, though no one is sure how that is possible, least of all Chiyo." Basama. When Shukaku was removed from their bodies, both of the Ichibi's previous Jinchuriki died. The Kazekage leaned back in his chair and grated his teeth. "So where do we stand?" Gaara still has control over sand and his automatic defenses seem to be intact despite no longer containing the Ichibi. However, without Shukaku he will not be able to release it during the Chunin exam finals in 1 month, Baki stated. "It's a catastrophe," the Kazekage grimaced. "Without a Biju we cannot hope to attack Konoha with any hope of victory." "With all due respect, Kazekage Sama," Baki bowed his head. "From what Yakushi Kabuto has told us, Konoha has recently lost their Jinchuriki, leaving them weakened. Even without the Ichibi, Gaara is still a formidable opponent and can easily kill anyone that challenges him. Konoha is not to be taken lightly," the Kazekage warned him. "They have stood as the strongest shinobi village ever since the founding of the 5 great nations." From the doorway, Chiyo said, "And yet they've grown weaker since the death of their Yondaime Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen may be strong, but he is far past his prime. Of his students only Jiraiya Gaki remains loyal to him, and other than that there are no other rank shinobi in their ranks. If there was ever a time to end Konoha, this is the time," Ebizo, her younger brother, declared. The Kazekage bowed his head, saying, "Chiyo Basama, Ebizo Jisama," showing respect for the 2 village elders. "Welcome." Chiyo inquired, "What will you do, Yondaime Kazekage Sama?" "We'll destroy Konoha. Hokage Monument at Konoha, the Land of Fire." With an indifferent expression, Uzumaki Naruto stands atop the head of the Yondaime Hokage, whose face is carved into the mountain and overlooks the village below. This village was cursed. Since its founding, the clans of Senju, Uzumaki, and Uchiha had been driven to the verge of extinction while all other clans prospered, enjoying comfortable and opulent lives at the expense of him and those who were similar to him. "Not any longer," he said, "it's time to begin," then leapt and vanished in a flash of yellow light. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, was putting on his armor across the village, aware that his errant pupil Orochimaru would be making his move today. He didn't intend to let his student escape again, so he needed to be ready for whatever was going to happen. With so many regrets already under his belt, Orochimaru, Tsunade, Minato, Kushina, Naruto, Byakuya, he wished he could have done something for them. Suddenly, he was overcome with a heavy feeling that reminded him of something he had experienced 13 years earlier, a persistent wrongness. "It can't be," he thought to himself before hurriedly donning his remaining armor and bolting out the door. "Kachiyose no jutsu," Naruto muttered as he struck a building's roof with his hand. The thousands of people living in Konohagakure no Sato were frozen in shock and terror as a loud roar reverberated throughout the village, following an explosion of smoke that captured everyone's attention. The blond man said, "Do it, Shukaku," pulling several vines off the Ichibi's back as he leapt and vanished in a flash of yellow light. "This is," Hiruzen thought as he saw Tanuki's enormous sand sculpture. An Anbu suddenly materialized at his side and exclaimed, "Hokage Sama. It's the Ichibi." The Ichibi just appeared out of nowhere. Hiruzen gave the order, "I know. I'll hold it back, evacuate, and protect the civilians." To his never-ending shame, he exclaimed, "And bring my grandson to me. I apologize to Konohamaru-kun, but you are the only candidate I have, and as Hokage I must seal the Ichibi away." The Anbu nodded, "Yes, sir," and vanished quickly after. With another roar, the Ichibi leveled buildings and sent a wave of sand through the village, crushing everything in its path before focusing on the Sandaime Hokage. As it roared once more, Hiruzen whispered, "So you've noticed me already?" Futon. Renkuden. Shukabu roared as several enormous gusts of wind burst from its mouth, demolishing dozens of buildings in their path. Hiruzen said, "This can't go on," as he rapidly formed a pair of hand seals. He yelled, "Kachiyose no jutsu," and slammed his hand down. Seals unfurled, and in an instant, the Monkey King, Enma, materialized in a puff of smoke. Enma exclaimed, "Hiruzen? What the hell happened here?" as she watched the Biju destroying the village. It just kind of showed up, Hiruzen answered. I need your help, old friend. You've got it, Enma concurred. At that moment, Shukaku let out another roar and began to gather chakra spheres in the colors red and blue into a large black ball at its mouth. No, Hiruzen uttered as his heart fell upon witnessing the Ichibi prepare that specific jutsu. Enma! He exclaimed. Enma yelled, Konga Ra Heki. As dozens of clones materialized all around him and took the form of staffs. A roar filled the air as the two took cover and they piled themselves in front of each other. Shukaku roared, Bijudama. As the sphere it was holding burst forward in a beam of dark yellow light, tearing apart the earth and creating a gaping hole that extended from the center of Konoha to the walls of the village. Goddamn, Hiruzen uttered as the explosion subsided. Enma asked, Hiruzen, are you alright? As his clones vanished. Hiruzen complained, I'm getting too old for this shit, as he noticed a glimmer of movement behind him. What? As someone grabbed his shoulder, he thought. Hiruzen. Enma exclaimed, launching himself forward and barely managing to seize hold of Hiruzen's arm before the trio disappeared in a flash of yellow light. Land of Fire. The Namikaze House. Hiraishin no Jutsu. Hiruzen and Enma cried out as they fell to the ground and rolled across the grass before excruciatingly scrambling to their feet. Hiruzen trailed off in shock, noticing where he was, saying, that was. They stood in front of the former home of Minato and Kushina, which was completely destroyed inside and has remained that way ever since as a grave and a monument. With a deep voice, you will face me, Sandaime Hokage, the speaker called out to them. With the morning light illuminating his mask and his cloak billowing in the breeze, Naruto stood erect. Who are you? Asked Hiruzen. How do you know the Hiraishin no Jutsu? To you, a name has no meaning, calmly stated Naruto. Call me Menma. I am the savior of this world. Incoherent, Hiruzen trailed off, savior. Don't take me for a fool. You can control the Ichibi, you set it loose on Konoha and know how to perform the Yondaime Hokage's signature Jika, Kon Ninjutsu with enough skill to get the drop on me. You aren't any ordinary shinobi, though judging by your height I would say that you are still a child, he said. Even though he might just be Onoki's height. Naruto proclaimed, I am the one who will bring peace to this cursed world. Enma said, Hiruzen, making a hand seal. In the next second, he changed into a staff and said, talking won't do anything here. His summoner said, Henge, Konga Nyoi, snatching up the staff and spinning it around before assuming his Bojutsu stance. It doesn't matter who you are, Hiruzen said. As an enemy of Konoha you will be stopped here before you can do any more damage. Naruto replied, we'll see about that, and then threw his go. 2-3. Pronged kunai at him. He reappeared next to Hiruzen, saying, Hiraishin no Jutsu, and he punched a blue chakra ball into his abdomen. Rasengan. Hiruzen cried out as his body burst into a mud splash. I didn't even see him switch with the mud clone. He's fast for an old man. Hiruzen said, Doden. Doria, Taiga, as the muck beneath his feet moved and pulled him in the direction of the wall enclosing the former Yondaime's home. Mud spit out at the masked blonde, Doden. Doria, Dan, a dragon head spewed. He yelled, Kaden, Karia, Dan. And shot a stream of fire into the mudblasts, igniting them. Naruto thought to himself, not bad for an old man, as he rapidly formed a set of hand seals. Mokuton. Mokuja Heki, wood closed in on itself, locking into place and rising up from the ground to form half a dome in front of the masked blonde. That is, Hiruzen thought, startled. He narrowed his eyes and said, he has the Mokuton bloodline just like the Shodai Hokage. Are you a Senju? Naruto answered simply, I am the inheritor of the Will of Fire. Konoha betrayed everything that the Senju stood for and will vanish from this world for their crimes. This one is risky, thought Hiruzen. It makes sense that he could command the Ichibi. He shares Hashirama. Sama's Mokuton ancestry. Mokuton. Daijiren no Jutsu, Naruto exclaimed, extending his right hand. It was only a moment before it transformed into a massive wooden tree that shot directly at Hiruzen, swatting the flames out of the way as its branches swiftly reached the elderly Sarutobi. Like Tenzo, he lacks Hashirama's raw power, Hiruzen surmised as he barely avoided the attack and leapt away. It is dangerous to let someone live who knows Hashirama's and Minato's jutsu. He will undoubtedly destroy Konoha and maybe the rest of the world if I don't stop him here. Naruto cried out, Mokuton, Mokusatsu Shibari no Jutsu. as massive wooden columns rose up out of the earth and interlocked around him to keep him from escaping. Kaden. Karya, Enden. Hiruzen cried out, letting out a powerful gust of lanes that burned through the wooden bindings in an instant. Releasing himself, he landed on the outer wall of the demolished house. Naruto thought to himself, his eyes narrowing behind his mask, this is about my limit. Before I can reach Dad's level, I still need to master level 2 Hiraishin no Jutsu, and my chakra control isn't good enough to start using Hashirama. Sama's more powerful jutsu. He will know who I am if I use the Kyuubi, and I don't want that information to leak. I have to avoid using the Kyuubi's power if I want to keep the fact that I'm alive a secret because everyone believes I've died. I refuse to allow you to continue doing as you please, Hiruzen said, getting his staff ready. No, that's sufficient, Naruto remarked, stepping back. I'm done here. What do you mean? Asked Hiruzen. I wanted to test myself against the god of shinobi, that is supposed to be the strongest shinobi alive, said Naruto. From what I've seen, you're long past your prime, so I no longer have an interest in the situation. I refuse to allow you to simply walk away, proclaimed Sandaime Hokage. Naruto challenged, try and stop me, before vanishing in a flash of yellow light. Hiraishin no Jutsu. He mentioned that his name was Menma, Hiruzen pondered. Even with all of his strength, he was powerless against time. If he is still a child, that means he hasn't realized his full potential yet. It's only a matter of time before he surpasses me completely, and I may not be here to face him next time. No, there is always a way. I just hope you will pardon me, Konohamaru. Kun, he said, turning to face Konoha as he leapt into the trees. Land of Fire. Hokage Tower and Konoha. After breaking into the Hokage Tower, Uzumaki Hinoka and Yuki Haku moved fast through the corridors in the direction of the Hokage's office. All of the shinobi in the tower left it empty when Naruto called upon the Ichibi in the middle of Konoha. They all left to fight the invading Biju or remove the civilians from the battlefield. As they opened a wall safe to the side of the office, Hinoka said, "This is it." Haku said as the Uzumaki Kunoichi pulled out a large scroll from the safe, "I can't believe the Hokage kept it here even after Naruto. Sama stole it the first time." Hinoka reasoned, only 3 people knew it was here. The Hokage, Naruto. Kun and Orochimaru. N. Naruto. Kun? A startled voice questioned, with a hint of hope. Hinoka demanded, as they quickly turned, "Who's there?" "Why? You said Naruto." "Kun," uttered a girl with white eyes and lavender hair. "Did you mean Uzumaki Naruto?" Hinoka muttered, "I wish Karen Dono would scout out the area at times like these," as Haku vanished in a blur and then reappeared behind the newcomer. She asked, "Who are you? Tell us now before we kill you." The girl said, I'm Hyuga Hinata," as Haku put a senbon around her neck. "Please. If Naruto Kun is really still alive, then I have to see him again." Hinoka inquired inquisitively. "What are you to him?" Hinata uttered as she began to cry. "I love him. I couldn't tell him before, but if he really is still alive, then I need to tell him how much he means to me." "You love him?" Hinoka asked with a hint of amusement. "I wonder where you were when this village ignored and betrayed him." The Hyuga heiress was now sobbing in public. Plans have changed," Hinoka informed her teammate. "We're taking her with us." Haku gave a nod and pierced her neck, rendering her lifeless. As she picked up the Hyuga girl, the Yuki Kunoichi remarked, "Naruto Sama might not like this." With a small black rod like object in her hand, Hinoka reasoned, he will be the one that decides what to do with her. Squeezing the chakra rod in her hand, she said, "We've accomplished what we came here for," and vanished in a puff of smoke. Haku came next, clenching yet another chakra rod in her own hand and emptying the Hokage Tower entirely. Uzumaki Karen stood outside the village, witnessing as the Ichibi tore through the demolished village, stomping over everything and everyone in its path. The enormous sand monster was being attacked by Konoha Nins, but they were unable to stop it. The 4 biggest chakra signatures in the villagia, those of the shinobi identified as Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Hitaki Kakashi, and Maeda-Gaya were getting closer to the creature, and she could feel them. Hiruzen was moving quickly back towards the Biju, seemingly outside the village walls. She had no doubt already been approached by her benefactor, Uzumaki Naruto, who had taken the elderly Hokage aside to give them some privacy on the battlefield. She acknowledged that she had been a little envious when she had learned that her late master had accepted a new pupil, a Uzumaki clan member who reportedly possessed her master's Mokuton ancestry. She had come to terms with the fact that even in death, her master had plans, and she and Naruto would be at the center of them. Furthermore, it didn't seem like she detested the blonde boy. Instead, he had a way of growing on you and making it hard not to like him. She wasn't talking about the Kyuubi sealed with him. There was just something about him that wasn't normal, even by Uzumaki standards. He was something more than she could have ever imagined. Time would tell. Her eyes narrowed as she felt a significant amount of chakra charge up in Jiraiya appear at the edge of the village walls. He was undoubtedly going to call forth something that would directly oppose the raging Biju. Kakashi and Guy, the others, were racing towards Shukaku, closely trailed by a much smaller chakra signature that she was unaware of. Is that possible? Karen was about to say, are they really planning to? When she felt the 2 chakra rods she had made and given to Hinoka and Haku tug on her. The thought was short-lived. Shikusha da. Kachiyose no jutsu, she muttered as she created a seal with her hand and 2 seal matrix formations at her sides, which were followed by 2 smoke explosions. When the smoke cleared, she saw a 3rd kunoichi in addition to the 2 she had anticipated, though the unexpected visitor appeared to be unconscious. I thought you were getting Hashirama. Sama's forbidden scroll of sealing, not some Hyuga girl? We managed to get the scroll back, Hinoka reported. As for the girl, she was a target of opportunity that Menma-kun will decide what to do with. Anyway, Karen said in a contemptuous tone. They noticed a yellow flash as Naruto suddenly materialized in front of them, his cloak billowing in the breeze as he touched down next to them. With a neutral tone, she inquired, I hope you had fun. Naruto answered, the old man shouldn't be underestimated despite his age. Though, he is far past his prime if I am able to hold my own against at my current level. Indeed, thought Karen. Naruto. Sama, Haku interrupted. She reported, we have an extra, carrying Hinata on her shoulder. Hinata. Was all Naruto said. Why is she here? Looks like she's in love with you, Hinoka replied. I thought you might like to deal with her yourself. With clarity, Naruto stated. We're leaving. The others nodded and took hold of his arms, saying, there is nothing for us here now, before they all vanished in a flash of yellow light. Battlefield, Konoha, Land of Fire. Jiraiya of the Sannin exclaimed, Kachiyose no jutsu. As he landed in front of the enormous sand demon that was tearing through his hometown. Ahead of him, in a cloud of smoke, rode Jiraiya, the powerful Gamabunta. Upon seeing what was in front of him, Gamabunta exclaimed, Jiraiya. What the hell is going on? Jiraiya replied, the Ichibi is attacking Konoha. It came out of nowhere just like the Kyuubi did 13 years ago. Gamabunta yelled, damn, not again. As he rushed past the Ichibi and lunged forward, sword drawn. Before the sand demon could be forced to leap away, the toad boss cried out, Gamada Susan. As his sword tore through the creature's right arm and ripped it off. Shukaku's physical strength is top-notch. Shukaku growled, you'll pay for that. And let out multiple large wind spheres. Futon. Renkuden. Gamabunta fired back, Suiten, Tepodama. And fired several of his own water bullets. The 2 attacks collided, blew each other back, and burst into a shower of water and air. Got any ideas? With a hand seal in place, Jiraiya cried out, Bunta. Give me some oil. Kaiten. Gamayu Enden. Jiraiya and Gamabunta yelled simultaneously. When Jiraiya breathed fire into the stream, the oil abruptly ignited and turned into an inferno, shooting a stream of oil out of the toad boss's mouth and toward Shukaku. The flames consumed Shukaku's form, transforming much of it into glass, but it soon became apparent that the insane Biju would not be contained for long. The demon was leaking red chakra, and the glass was beginning to break, indicating its return. At this rate, it will continue to reform, Gamabunta remarked, observing the glass begin to shatter. This ends now. Oh well. Known voice exclaimed as a massive staffa many times longer and larger than usual shattered the glass. Covered Ichibi into shards that scattered everywhere. Sensei? Jiraiya exclaimed, startled, as Hiruzen fell in front of Gamabunta and him. Inquiring as to the whereabouts of the village's Hokage during this crisis, he asked, what happened? Where were you? Hiruzen answered, I was confronting the one behind this attack on our village. Jiraiya asked, startled, someone orchestrated this? It appeared now that his theory that the attack by the Kyuubi might have been planned by someone, specifically that Mana had been verified. Uchiha Madara, he said in a knowing whisper. Jiraiya? Asked Hiruzen. I always thought that the Kyuubi attack 13 years ago was strange, Jiraiya stated. I believe someone was behind that attack as well. As Kakashi, Guy, and his grandson Konohamaru landed next to him, Hiruzen trailed off, saying, if it is the same man I faced then. We've brought him, Hokage. Sama, Kakashi said in an impartial voice. I don't agree with this, Guy continued. This is most unyouthful. Hiruzen told them, it has to be done for the good of the village, before turning to face his clearly terrified grandson. Konohamaru. I'm sorry I have do this as the duty of a Hokage is to protect the village. You will be a hero from this day forth and I wish you a happy life. With concern, Konohamaru said, Gee. Grandpa? Shiki Fujin. Hiruzen cried out as the death god's spectral form materialized behind him and he formed a hand. Seal. He gave the order, do it, and the Shinigami's hand shot through his stomach and through his back. It grabbed hold of Shukaku's reforming body quickly and began drawing it in. His hand slammed into Konohamaru's stomach, causing the sand demon to be swiftly drawn inside the boy's rapidly forming Hake no Fa, in Shiki engraved on his stomach, knocking him unconscious. He cried out, Fuin. Sensei. Jiraiya sadly pondered. With the final draw of Ichibi's chakra into its new Jinchuriki, Hiruzen closed his eyes and said, I leave the rest to you. Jiraiya cursed and placed his now deceased sensei on the ground, saying, damn it. My sensei, now, after my student. The self. Declared Otokage of Otogakure no Sato, Orochimaru of the Sannin, stood outside the village and observed with a neutral expression. He asked, are you certain? Yes, Orochimaru. Sama, Yakushi Kabuto answered. Both of the sacrifices for the Edo Tensei have been sabotaged. Orochimaru trailed off, saying, I see. At least I got rid of that idiot Case-Cage, but Suna withdrew right away when they saw the Ichibi going crazy. Looks like we have a new player in our little game, Madara? It doesn't matter. Konoha is in ruins and Sensei is dead, despite the fact that Konoha still stands. Given that Konoha now owns the Ichibi, the Akatsuki will become interested in the matter and choose a new Hokage. Kabuto asked, your orders, Orochimaru. Sama? We're going to leave, Orochimaru answered. Spread the word to withdraw. Land of Fire. Eastern Village Wall, Konoha. Uchiha Itachi was a naturally patient man, as evidenced by his willingness to wait for his younger brother to become strong enough to confront him and bring an end to his suffering. He had killed all of his clan members in one night 5 years prior, leaving only his brother alive to stop the start of the Fourth Great Shinobi War. His mission was to permanently put an end to the Uchiha clan's plans for a coup. While he still harbored feelings for Konoha and his younger brother, he was now part of the Akatsuki and Uchiha Madara's apprentice, putting him at the epicenter of what might be the start of a revolution similar to the establishment of the shinobi villages. The entire Akatsuki organization was taken aback and, in Madara's case, a little confused when Zetsu told them that the Ichibi had been taken from its living Jinchuriki and had attacked Konoha. After all, 13 years ago, he was the one behind the Kyuubi attack, and it appeared that history was repeating itself again. His partner Hoshigaki Kisame remarked, they've escaped complete annihilation but it appears they've sustained heavy losses. This man was a predator in every sense of the word, made more so by the demonic sword that giggled on his back. Itachi commented, for such a prosperous village. It's pathetic, as he looked at the abandoned village. That's not like you at all, Kisame laughed. So you still have lingering affections towards your home village? Even you have nostalgia, huh? No. Itachi answered as his Sharingan came into action. None at all. Surprisingly, the Hokage Tower had survived the recent Ichibi attack unharmed, but the situation in roughly 3/4 of the village was different. Until the very end, there was no active Sandaime Hokage leading the shinobi into battle against the Ichibi, unlike the Kyuubi attack 13 years ago. It nearly destroyed all of Konoha before Sarutobi Hiruzen stopped it because there was no one of S rank to stop the raging Biju. Haruno Mebuki screamed to the gathered councils, the demon must be killed immediately. We cannot let Sandaime Sama's sacrifice be in vain. The civilian council strongly agreed with her statement, saying, "We were lucky that the Kyuubi was ridden from the world last year and we can't possibly let another one of those things in the village. I won't let it hurt my daughter." "Enough!" Jiraiya exclaimed as he entered the room, putting an end to the conversation. "Jiraiya Sama." Nara Shikaku nodded from his position on the Shinobi Council in greeting. "Judging by the fact that you are here, I assume that you have agreed to become the Godem Hokage?" "Yes," Jiraiya said with a nod as he approached and took the Hokage's seat. "As much as I'd like to continue my research, I can't let things stay the way they're without trying to do something about it." Mebuki questioned, "And what about the demon child? He can't be allowed to live. Not after what he's done." With a glare, Sarutobi Asuma said, "That demon child, as you so eloquently put it, is the grandson of the Sandaime Hokage and my nephew." As murmurs among the civilians began, Mebuki countered, "That thing killed the honorable grandson and took his form. What if it possesses someone else?" From his position among the three elders, Shimura Danzo declared, "A Jinchuriki can be a powerful weapon for any shinobi village. Konoha is weakened right now with the Ichibi attack and the death of Sarutobi along with half of the village's shinobi. Having a Jinchuriki in the village will give the other nations pause, buying us time to properly train him to combat the enemies of Konoha." "Enough." Knowing what the elderly warhawk was hinting at, Jiraiya gritted out. "I agree the boy needs to be trained up and I have someone in mind to do just that. As of now I am making an S. rank law that should anyone want to kill the demon, they will be immediately executed. Do I make myself clear?" B. "But, Hokage Sama," Mebuki exclaimed, furious. "Do I make myself clear?" Jiraiya questioned once more, much more icily. "Why?" "Yes," with a startled nod from Mebuki. Knowing this, Jiraiya reasoned, "It won't be long before that organization realizes Konoha has a new Biju in our possession. The boy's chances of surviving in this world will increase with the sooner he completes his training." Forest of Death in the Land of Fire. Up until yesterday, Sarutobi Konohamaru's life had consisted of him imagining that stepping out of his grandfather's shadow would be the most stressful thing. He was referred to as the honorable grandson, and was never called by his true name because he was the Sandaime Hokage's grandson. All of that had changed yesterday, when the demon threatening the village was sealed inside of him by his own grandfather. They could all see now that he was the Ichibi he had kept inside of him. Is this how Naruto Nissan experienced this? Konohamaru put his hand to his stomach, where the new seal lay, and asked in a tone that was not hardly terrified. "I still find it hard to believe that Nissan also possessed one of these traits." After awakening earlier in the morning, he was brought to the deep and forbidden forest where Konoha conducted the second stage of its Chunin exams. The Anbu assigned to guard him gave him a brief explanation of what had happened to him. Despite his advanced age, he possessed intelligence rivaled only by that of the Nara clan, belonging to the Sarutobi clan, and he knew exactly why he had been sent to this remote place. There were only two possible responses to that. Either the Ichibi tried to take control of him and go on another rampage, in which case he was brought here to prevent further damage to the village. The second reason was that, at this moment, feelings were running high and there was always a chance that someone, either from the village or abroad, would try to kill him for whatever reason. He had previously experienced assassination attempts, but they had always been small scale affairs, as he was the grandson of the Sandaime Hokage. Since he was now the new Jinchuriki of Konoha, the other villages would do everything in their power to have him killed in order to undermine the village. Jinchuriki. Already, he detested the word. The Anbu assigned to him went by the name Tenzo, and he would explain that he was by himself because, in contrast to other Anbu, he possessed the capacity to actively suppress a Biju's chakra. Konohamaru couldn't help but wonder what could possibly contain something like that, even if it was sealed away in a host, given the kind of damage the Ichibi had caused. Additionally, he was informed that the Ichibi was regarded as the least powerful of the 9 Biju. Tenzo asked abruptly, startling him by making him jump. "Who's there?" "It's just me," said Kakashi, landing in the clearing with Sasuke right behind him. "Senpai," Tenzo said with a nod. "Identification?" "A leaf blowing in the wind," Kakashi answered. Tenzo exhaled with relief and said, "It's good to see you, Senpai. You can't be too careful these days." "I agree," nodded Kakashi as he and Sasuke drew near. Tenzo asked, "What's the kid doing here?" I reasoned that a Mangekyo Sharingan might be helpful in case the seal fails, Kakashi said, turning to face the youthful Sarutobi. Jiraiya. Sama would like to take a look at the seal to see if everything is intact, though if it's anything like Naruto's it will only allow chakra to leak into his chakra reserves. Sasuke said, I still can't believe the Dobi had one of things sealed in him. He was a sacrifice even while he was living, and he remained one after his death. Kakashi clarified, the Sharingan has always had the ability to control the Biju. That was one of the main reasons he was assigned to my team along with you, Sasuke. Talking about teams, Sasuke remarked inquisitively. What's happening to Team 7 now that Sai has left the team? This Konohamaru. Kun will be replacing him, Kakashi replied. From the reports given to us by Jiraiya, Sama's spy network, the former Ichibi Jinchuriki who somehow survived having the Biju removed has always been able to manipulate sand, Tenzo said. But from what I've seen Konohamaru, Kun doesn't have that ability. Kakashi retorted, remember that Sandame Sama utilized the Shiki Fujin. It is the most powerful Injutsu that we know of requiring a contract with the Shinigami itself in order to use. The fact that it was able to allow Minato Sensei to defeat even the Kyuubi, something only ever accomplished by Shodai Sama should be proof of that. A large shark-shaped bullet of water descended upon them, surprising them as a voice called out, Sweden, Suika Dan no Jutsu. That's, Kakashi thought to himself as he swiftly sealed his hands together. He yelled, Sweden, Suiryuden no Jutsu. As the water in the pond nearby erupted, taking the form of a dragon before veering and stopping the water shark attack. Don't go overboard, Kisame, a fresh voice said. We need him alive. Sasuke's eyes grew wide as he thought about that voice. It's not possible. Kakashi said, Uchiha Itachi, the man who wiped out the Uchiha clan, as he lifted his hite. 8 to reveal his Sharingan and saw the 2 Nukanen. And Hoshigaki Kisame, a member of Kiri's 7 shinobi swordsmen. At the sight, Kisame pondered, a Sharingan? No wonder you stopped my jutsu. You must be copy. Nin Kakashi. I heard you sparred with Zabuza a while back. Heh. I'll cut you to ribbons. Easy Sasuke, Kakashi remarked, watching as the youngest Uchiha advanced. Kisame said inquisitively, hey, that kid looks a lot like you, Itachi. Do you know him? Itachi said, he's my little brother. You're no brother of mine. Sasuke exclaimed, his Mangekyo Sharingan growing in his eyes as he growled with rage and hatred. Not after what you've done. Itachi trailed off, saying, the Mangekyo. So you finally have it. I now understand why you abandoned me, Sasuke said in a clear voice. It was because you needed a spare to counter the blindness caused by the Mangekyo Sharingan and awaken a eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. You see, Itachi thought to himself. Kisame asked, I thought you wiped out your whole clan? Itachi answered. I needed a spare pair of eyes for what is coming. But he's still not ready. His eyes haven't matured enough for what I need. Hey. Interesting, Kisame remarked with a laugh. You will be at a disadvantage if his Mangekyo Sharingan is anywhere near what mine was in the beginning, Itachi advised him. I will deal with him personally. You can deal with the others. Kisame questioned, and our target? Itachi gave an indifferent, do whatever you like as long as you don't kill him, response. I'll amputate his limbs, Kisame boasted with a shark-like grin while holding Samahata. Itachi said, let's begin. Sasuke, as his Mangekyo Sharingan came to life, forming a red background with a black pinwheel. Sasuke said, Tsukuyomi, and the two went completely still. Sasuke and Itachi both fell to their knees, panting heavily, a split second later. He broke and fractured the Tsukuyomi, but it exhausted us both in the process. What is this target that you're after? Itachi replied, we are pursuing the Sandame Hokage's legacy. Kakashi wondered, Konohamaru, huh? You two aren't the only ones, are you? I know all about you. You call yourselves the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki. Tenzo said, trailing off as Konohamaru, who was now terrified, stood behind him. Itachi interrupted, saying, Kisame, change of plans. We're taking Kakashi with us. Make the other one disappear. A new voice said, that's far enough, as red walls that resembled muscles erupted all around them. Jiraiya uttered, Kachayose, Gamaguchi Shibari, at the two Akatsuki members from behind. Jiraiya of the Sannin, Itachi thought to himself. The Godem Hokage. Jiraiya vowed to stop him from leaving. Itachi remarked, now I know how Kakashi knew about us. You were the source of his information. You're pursuing the Ichibi, Jiraiya said emphatically. That's why you've come after Konohamaru. To take Konohamaru along with us, Itachi said. That is the supreme order given to us by the leader of the Akatsuki. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes and said, who the hell could be so powerful that he's managed to get someone like you two to work for him? Itachi merely answered, he is someone beyond mortal understanding. Not that it matters. We will capture the Ichibi another time when there is less interference. Kisame, we're leaving. Kisame asked his partner, you sure? A confrontation with the Hokage would at best result in our mutual destruction, Itachi argued. We will acquire the Ichibi another time. Yes, Kisame gave a nod. Sasuke, Itachi said, turning to face his younger sibling. Then, a second later, both Akatsuki members started running down the organic corridor and turned a corner as the walls closed in behind them. You've grown stronger, but it's not enough. You still lack hatred. When we meet again, it will be for the last time, they said. Kisame said, don't look now, but there's a wall of flesh coming after us, as they fled. Itachi comforted himself, it's fine, even as his eye began to bleed. Amaterasu, the two sprang out, escaping into the trees as black flames shot out at the end of the far wall, melting the organic wall in a matter of seconds. Jiraiya reached the demolished wall quickly and peered down at the black flames. He stumbled over his words as he hastily unfolded a scroll, this is Fuka Hoin, he exclaimed as the flames entered the scroll's seal. Konohamaru, trying to gather himself, said, They're really going to be coming after me, aren't they? Yes, Jiraiya said with a nod. Sasuke growled, my brother, his jutsu I'm the only one who can fight him. Jiraiya retorted, as you are now, he'll kill you if he fought seriously. So, how should I proceed? Asked Sasuke. Kakashi, change of plans, Jiraiya said in a tone that suggested authority. As of right now I want you to take Sasuke on as your apprentice. Teach everything you know and have him ready when the time comes. I will assign that little pink-haired kunoichi of yours to Team 8. From what I understand they're down a member after the Hyuga girl was killed during the Ichibi's attack. Yes, Hokage. Sama, Kakashi acknowledged with a nod. Jiraiya turned to face the Anbu, Tenzo, I want you to do the same Konohamaru. With your Mokuton abilities you should be able to aid in his training with the Ichibi's chakra. Hokage. Sama, that's what I'll do, Tenzo bowed in response to the command. Princess's Tent, rebel base in the Land of Snow. The actress Fujikaze Yukie, also known as Kazuhana Koyuki, the heir to the Land of Snow's throne, was always regarded as a kind and innocent young child. She was forced to leave the country with the assistance of a teenage girl with red hair when her uncle killed her father and took control of it. Uzumaki Hinoka and her anonymous benefactor made it possible for her to flee and create a new identity for herself. She was informed that the moment would arrive to go back to the Land of Snow and permanently exterminate her uncle Dodo and his hired ninja from the nation. Though Dodo and a Jonin level ninja by the name of Roga Nader controlled Yukigakure no Sato, the country's shinobi village, so support from the village's shinobi forces was out of the question until those two were eliminated. Yuki was probably the most remote of all the shinobi villages, but other than AIM, where the village was under lockdown, the whole Land of Snow was so far from the mainland that it would take a week by ship to get there, so other countries left them alone. Koyuki. Haim, Sandayu called out through the open door. He said, Hinoka. Sama is here to see you. Koyuki nodded, send her in, and he hurried out the door as well. Known redhead approached. So I take it everything went well? Excellent beyond our expectations, Hinoka verified. Menma. Sama's plan worked like a charm. We retrieved the forbidden scroll of sealing, captured an unmarked Hyuga and now Sarutobi Hiruzen is dead. Konoha captured the Ichibi just like we predicted, so the Akatsuki will have to redirect their efforts back to Konoha in order to gain control of it. Koyuki thought, the mysterious Menma. Dono. I've heard a great many things about Karen Chan's benefactor, including the fact that he can control the Biju like she can. Hinoka nodded and said, he's powerful. You should meet him sometime. Koyuki inquired, Where is he now? He's in the hospital tent waiting for the Hyuga girl to wake up, Hinoka replied. I'll talk to him later, Koyuki dismissed it. As for more important matters, Sandayu has suggested to the director that we should shoot the next Princess Gale movie in the Land of Snow, more specifically at Rainbow Glacier. Hinoka questioned. You think it is the right time? My father loved this country and Dodo murdered him in order to seize control. I won't forgive him, Koyuki responded. I've waited 10 years for this. I won't wait a moment longer. I'll let the others know, Hinoka said with a nod. Rebel base, hospital tent in the Land of Snow. Hyuga Hinata was always a shy girl by nature, known to pass out at the sight of her childhood crush. However, she quickly changed into a cold and angry person after learning that Sasuke had been responsible for Naruto's death on a mission, if the stories she had been told about the Mangekyo Sharingan were accurate. She had advanced at a speed that was almost terrifying, easily defeating anyone who dared to challenge her in sparring. She had competed against her cousin Neji, who was heralded as the Hyuga clan's prodigy, in the preliminary rounds of the Chunin exams when her team was entered. She had almost casually defeated her fate. Obsessed cousin by developing her own distinctive style to capitalize on her flexibility, which led many of the clan elders to believe that she was too dangerous and a threat to their way of life. After she had easily defeated her younger sister, her father had expressed his pride and concern for her. She also detested Uchiha Sasuke for what he had done to her Naruto and had hoped to compete against him in the Chunin exam finals, but the Ichibi attacked before the competition could begin. With her Byakugan, she had tracked two strange people using her to infiltrate the Hokage Tower, while the other shinobi in the village either confronted the demon or evacuated the civilians. They seemed to know Naruto, despite the fact that he was supposed to be dead, based on what she had heard. The thought that he might still be alive made her heart race, and now here she was, hoping to see her true love again. As his eyes slowly opened, Hinata trailed off, Ru. 2. Kun. From the adjacent seat, the blonde's well-known voice surprised everyone by asking, not quite. When Hinata's eyesight returned and she could see the blonde boy to her side, she exclaimed, Naruto. Kun? Is that you? She inquired more, looking up at him and noticing that he had on a white kitsune mask. Is that you? Hello, I'm Menma, Naruto said. I still find it hard to believe that while in Konoha of all places, Hinoka and Haku were addressing me by my true name. You're really him, Hinata said with a heartfelt smile. You have the same presence that he has, so you must be him. Presence? Thought Naruto. This feeling would be familiar to anyone who paid attention to you, Hinata remarked while dabbing away some tears. Naruto gritted his teeth and said, Damn it, Hinata, taking his mask off slowly to reveal his face. Why did you have to get involved? I'd like to accompany you, Hinata replied. I want to be with you. I love you. I didn't tell you before and you suddenly disappeared. I didn't know what to do, and then I heard about how Sasuke's eyes evolved when you died. Naruto trailed off, saying, I see. Why didn't you tell me before? I was afraid, was Hinata's candid response. I was afraid that you wouldn't like me. Shaking his head, Naruto said, Hinata. Back then I would have given anything to hear those words from anyone, especially those that meant them. And now? Nervously inquired Hinata. Naruto's response caused her face to fall and tears to start streaming down her cheeks. I refuse. You had your chance and didn't tell me. Now I simply don't care anymore, she said. I am the one who summoned the Ichibi to attack Konoha. I'm a Nukenin now and I finally have people who care about me. Hinata told him, I don't care about any of that. I've known about the Kyuubi for years and I've never cared about it. You knew? A shocked Naruto inquired. One of my clansmen told me, Hinata retorted. I want to be with you. Okay, Naruto gave a nod. But if you betray me then I will kill you. If you think about running or speaking about any of secrets to anyone then the seal I've placed on you will activate and you won't live to regret it. As a seal matrix began to glow across her forehead, Hinata stammered, I. Glancing over at her reflection in the window, she noticed that it resembled a slightly altered version of the caged bird seal. Naruto found it ironic that he had branded her with this servitude seal to keep her in line, since the Hyuga clan had based the caged bird seal on a seal from the Uzumaki clan. I have something I need to take care of but I'll be back later? Replied Naruto. Naruto got up and departed the tent, to which Hinata nodded. Okay. After stepping outside, Naruto shut the curtain and let out a sigh, gazing up at the starry sky. Karen questioned from the side, "Are you sure this is wise?" Finally, Naruto said, "Keep an eye on her. I can feel her emotions and they're a lot like how Haku felt when Zabuza died. She could either be a great asset or a rather annoying problem. That ability to sense negative emotions like fear and anxiety must be very interesting to have. I wonder just how it measures up against my own senses," Karen said with interest. "So what now?" inquired Naruto. "Koyuki. Haim has requested our services in retaking the Land of Snow from her uncle and liberating Yukigakure no Sato." "I've accepted on our behalf," Karen responded. "Yes, we do require a base of operations," thought Naruto. "I'll take Haku and Hinata. They should be enough." "You're just trying to watch her," Karen said. "I want to find out where her true allegiances lie," Naruto conceded. "Meanwhile, you and Hinoka can stay close to the princess and protect her while we deal with Dodo's ninja." Territory of Snow, Daimyo Castle. Because he had a brother who received constant public acclaim, Kazuhana Dodo was naturally conceited and envious. Sosetsu had always had his wish list fulfilled. He had beautiful daughters, money, and even the title of heir apparent to their father's throne in the Land of Snow. He had recruited Yuki Ninja 10 years prior to help him usurp the country from his naive brother. He was successful, but his niece managed to flee with the key to the Kazuhana clan's treasure. She had returned now. "So," Dodo said in a reflective tone. "She has returned. Our spies have reported that she has been disguising herself as Fujikaze Yukie, a famous actress that has been traveling around the continent. Currently she has linked up with the remnants of her father's former samurai guards and has even gone as far as to hire some ninja from the mainland. We can also confirm that she still has the hex crystal," said Fuyukuma Mizor. "Remarkable," Dodo pondered. "And what of these ninja she has hired?" "It's likely that they're Nukanen," Kakuyoku Fubuki speculated. "None of them are listed in the bingo books, and other than the fact that 2 of them seem to be siblings judging by their hair, they seem to be just some nobodies." "Koyuki, what are you planning?" Dodo pondered and asked. "Why would you come back now that 10 years have passed and you know you will undoubtedly die?" "In any case, I think we should intercept them before they decide to attack the fortress," Rogan Adair said. "We will deal with the ninja, personally." Dodo said to them, "I want her brought to me alive. She and I have much to talk about. I want her to see the fortune of the Kazuhana clan when I take it only for her to realize that her fate is already sealed." Mountain Range, the Land of Snow. As Naruto, Haku, and Hinata leapt from one ledge to the next along the snow covered path in the mountains, storm clouds hovered overhead. They had a very clear mission: to serve as the main force's vanguard and distraction while they launched their assault on the enemy stronghold. It was a good plan, but as everyone knows, no plan can withstand contact with the enemy. They would have set up a trap, and Dodo and his cronies had no doubt already been told. With her Byakugan activated, Hinata exclaimed, "Menma Sama. We have company." "I sense it too," Naruto said, nodding. "I know," they said, and their suspicions were confirmed when an airship spun around and materialized from behind the mountain, launching its racks of kunai. Accelerating emplacements at the 3. Scatter. A hail of kunai descended upon them, forcing them to take cover under the snow. The blonde Uzumaki cried out. "So easy," Fubuki exclaimed as she extended the wings of her chakra armor and leapt out of the airship, watching the 3 futilely try to avoid the onslaught as more kunai were fired in their direction. "Die you trash," Fubuki sneered as she flew over the 3 ninja below and dropped a series of ice bombs. The small ball shaped bombs struck the ground and massive spikes of ice shot up from the ground in all directions, forcing the 3 to jump away in order to escape. "They are now in our possession." Mizor shouted in glee as he closed in on Hinata and landed a solid punch to her face, only to blink in surprise when she disappeared in a poof of smoke upon contact. "Huh? A copy? Were they all clones?" Fubuki questioned, shocked to see the other 2 vanish in puffs of smoke as well. A 3-pronged kunai came flying at her from the side, but it ping off her chakra armor as she asked in a startled and worried tone. "That should have cleaved her in half. What happened?" "Hiraishin no jutsu," she whispered as Naruto and Haku appeared behind her in a yellow flash, but she was unable to turn in time before Haku swung Kabikariba Cha and sent her crashing down into the snow covered mountain below. As he and Haku landed on two of the freshly formed ice spikes, Naruto questioned. Mizore growled, "Why you?" before turning his snowboard and making a dash for the two. Rokuja, Yan Sha Gohaki. As a dome of interlocking chakra beams that resembled blades caught Mizore and sent him flying back into the snow, his skateboard breaking a moment later, Hinata's voice resounded. Furuki roared, "Damn you," as she stood up, her hands already sealed together. Hayatan. Sabama Fubuki. Dozens of swallow-shaped objects swiftly shot toward Haku and Naruto after forming from the snow. Haku countered, Hayatan. Hisatsu Hayasa, as big ice spikes rose up out of the ground, skewering the attacking swallows. It's the protective gear they're donning. It's created some kind of chakra barrier around them. I don't think ninjutsu or genjutsu will affect them like this, Hinata yelled to her allies. Their armor, huh? Haku, Hinata, you handle these two while I deal with the one in charge, thought Naruto. Yes, Menma. Sama, Hinata and Haku said together. I assume you're in charge of your small band? As he descended not too far away, Nadir inquired, should we play a little? Hayatan. Jutsu no Hayara. Fubuki exclaimed, hoping to catch the rebel ninja off guard, and succeeded in encasing Naruto and Haku in ice. I got them. Naruto's voice whispered, Bunshin Deibakuha, behind her before Haku and Naruto erupted violently in a shower of flames. When did they? Fubuki turned, thinking to herself in surprise. Sha Te. He gasped as he was flung back, blood bursting from his mouth before hitting the ground. Hinata cried out as she swiftly closed the distance between her and Mizore and delivered a powerful open palmed blow directly at her victim's heart. Damn these brats, Nadir clenched his teeth and made a seal with his hands. Hayatan. Haria, Mako. As a dozen snow-made tigers formed further up the mountain and charged down towards them, he yelled. As his two allies grabbed hold of his shoulders, Naruto yelled, Haku, Hinata, and the two fell back to his side. He then threw a three-pronged kunai up into the air, whispering, Hiraishin no Jutsu, right before the avalanche. Like attack descended upon them. The three appeared high above the battlefield before falling back down to the now rapidly calming mountain. Why don't you just pass away? As Fubuki landed by his side, Nadir yelled. Hayatan. Makaya Hayasha, Haku murmured, causing a dome of ice mirrors to form around the two remaining Yuki. Nins. Goodbye, she said, appearing in each mirror. A moment later, her Kabikariba Cha sliced the two in half, just before the ice mirrors broke. Naruto remarked, I see your speed with those mirrors has improved. Speed is power, Haku argued. You and your father proved that, Menma. Sama. After nodding, Naruto turned to face Hinata. You did well, Hinata. Chan, she said with a shy smile. Now let's go save this country, he said. Territory of Snow. Daimyo Castle. Karen and Hinoka had systematically annihilated everyone that stood in their path, more Karen than Hinoka, though they were both twice as old as her, and even with Nadir and his team gone, Dodo had assumed that the rest of the shinobi he'd hired would be enough to deal with his obnoxious niece and her lil pets. But the fortress was on fire as Karen walked through the stone hallways towards the throne room, Koyuki trailing closely behind. She'd been trained for this moment for years by Senju Hashirama, and now it was time to put that training into practice. The fact that she willingly allowed the Yuki Nins to use jutsu against her in order to absorb their chakra and keep herself fresh would attest to that. Furthermore, the fact that absorbing their chakra allowed her to also increase her own reserves made it clear that it was only a matter of time until her reserves were equal to Hinoka's. Naturally, they would never be able to match Naruto's reserves of chakra. They were simply inhuman. If Naruto were to truly reach level 20, his chakra would be as large as Hashirama's was during his prime after facing Madara for the last time. Furthermore, if he managed to fully control the Kyuubi's chakra as well, there would be no one alive who could match the amount of chakra he could unleash. That was a thought best left for later. As they entered the throne room, Koyuki said, Hello uncle, with clarity. Dodo said, You've grown, Koyuki, just as dozens of Yuki. Nins lunged towards the three as they emerged from the shadows. Tendo. Shinra Tensai, Karen muttered as a gravitational pulse shot the Yuki Nins flying through the walls. You mortals should bow in the presence of a goddess, she said, her expression almost callous. You've lost, Koyuki told the man, even though he was still the only member of his family remaining. Surrender, uncle, she said. Never. Hayatan. Kokriya, ba fa, setsu. Dodo bellowed angrily as he threw off his cloak to reveal his chakra armor underneath. A black dragon formed of ice seemed to explode from his hand and descend towards the three, he exclaimed, throwing out a fist in their direction. The black ice dragon appeared to collapse and be sucked in until it vanished entirely, and Karen murmured, Gakido. Fa, jutsu kya, in, raising her hand to block the approaching attack. Hinoka. Nichan, finish this. A barrier appeared in front of her. The Uzu no Tsurugi screamed in agony as his body seemed to dissolve and be drawn into the seals on the blade, and Hinoka said, You rely too much on this armor, as she landed directly in front of the snow daimyo. Fuan, she muttered. At last, he had vanished. Goodbye, uncle, Koyuki said somberly before averting her gaze. It's finally over, she murmured. With a knowing smile, Karen responded, No, I think we're just getting started. Yuki, head office in the land of snow. Due to its isolation and the fact that shinobi in general avoided socializing, Yukigakure no Sato may have been the least well-known shinobi village in all of the elemental nations. It was nearly hard for anyone to infiltrate and start trouble because Dodo had, for the previous 10 years, essentially put the entire country under lockdown. Its isolationist policies were similar to those of Omegakure no Sato in many respects. The main distinction was that AIM was known for its extreme industrialization, while Hanzo and other S-rank leaders led the village. But thanks to the wealth and accumulated knowledge of the Kazuhana clan, Yuki and the land of snow as a whole were more technologically advanced than the other nations, with airships, steam trains, and the recently invented cannons, even though no one knew this due to their isolation. Far to the east, past both the land of water and the land of lightning, lay the tiny island nation known as the land of snow. A full-scale invasion of the tiny country would be exceedingly challenging due to the distance between it and the mainland. In actuality, Kiri alone possessed the naval forces required to go up against Yuki, just as they did decades prior when they destroyed Uzushio alongside Iwa and Kumo. But unlike Uzushio, Yuki's forces lacked a significant number of elite ninja. That is, up until now. Karen said bluntly, I am not going to call you Yukikage Sama, as the masked blonde in front of her reclined in her new chair. And get out of my seat before I throw you out, Menma. Kun. From behind his mask, Naruto smiled and said, Come on, Karen. Chan. Just once, please, he begged. Menma is a good boy. Now, getting really agitated, Karen exclaimed, for the last time no. Naruto pouted, You're so mean, and got up. Fine, ruin my fun, why don't you? Karen sighed and sank into her chair, saying, Right now, we have more important things to deal with. The fact is that though we liberated the country from Dodo's rule and Koyuki Haim is doing a remarkable job at restoring the nation to its former glory, especially with that environmental control device her father was working on to change the land of snow into a land of spring. The fact is that the ninja need a strong leader to look up to, and neither of us has any knowledge on running a shinobi village. Naruto said. What are you suggesting? Senju Tsunade, Karen answered back. The granddaughter of Hashirama. Sama. Currently she is wandering about gambling away the Senju fortune after her brother and lover died during the Second War. I say we find her and get her to join us. Hashirama. Sama did ask me once to set her back on the right path and not the self-destructive one that she is on now. While we're away, someone has to take care of the village, thought Naruto. Who do you have in mind? Hinoka. Nichan, Karen replied. She's the oldest of us and has the most knowledge on these kinds of things, even though she hates leading people. I can use my Hiraishin no Jutsu to teleport us back to the mainland, so we won't need a ship or anything, Naruto thought. Same for getting back unnoticed. Karen said. Oh, I almost forgot, and then she reached under the desk to retrieve a large scroll. She handed the scroll to him and said, Hinoka. Nichan told me to give it to you. She found this in the vault. It's a summoning scroll for the Hawks. Examining the scroll, Naruto asked a curious, Why don't you sign it? Were they not the Hawks that Hashirama Sensei constantly called forth? My Rinnegan has already enabled me to call forth a variety of animals, Karen dismissed his inquiry. Sign it and let's go tell the others we'll be leaving. The sooner we track down Tsunade Sama, the sooner we can return home. Household. Before all of this, before he discovered the truth about his parents, his family, his clan, and everything else, he used to consider Konoha to be home. Because Yuki had never done anything to harm the Uzumaki and Senju clans, Hashirama. Sama had selected this village to be their home among all the villages in the elemental nations. They were acknowledged as a neutral country similar to the Land of Iron, having avoided involvement in every shinobi war to date. An ideal home base for their group to operate out of. Naruto stopped feeling so lost all of a sudden. Tanzaku Town, the Land of Fire. Hiraishin no Jutsu, Karen gripped Naruto's shoulder as he materialized on the town's periphery. He said, "We're here," as she took her hand off his shoulder and turned to face the other direction. They had materialized near the edge of the town, where the late Namikaze Minato, in his heyday, had left a Hiraishin seal on the earth. "Anything?" Karen answered, "I sense 2 large chakra signatures in the town. The larger of the 2 is larger than yours." With a little glare, Naruto said to her, "I take offense to that." "Men," Karen sighed and walked into the town. "Let's just find Tsunade Sama before I end up killing you." "Every now and then, you ought to loosen up a bit," complained Naruto as he trailed along. "I will die because of this woman." Senju Tsunade, her apprentice trailing closely behind, exclaimed, I won?" As she emerged from the gaming hall, looking surprised and alarmed. She had been a gambler her entire life, and she had hardly ever won any bets. The only times she acted were when a terrible thing happened shortly after. Shizune said, "Isn't this great, Tsunade Sama? Now we can pay off some of your debts." "Not right now, Shizune," Tsunade informed her. "I never win, and when I do, something is always about to go wrong." "Tsunade Sama." Shizune faltered now, clearly concerned. "Okay, come out," Tsunade abruptly said. "There's no point in hiding, I know you're there." 2 blurs appeared in front of the 2 adult kunoichi a moment later. "Who are you and what do you want?" The first was a girl with blood-red hair who was sporting glasses and, of all things, an Uzushio headband. Her figure was hidden from view by a long black cloak with a white outline, but based only on appearances, she couldn't be older than 15 or 16. The other one was a boy, or boyish, as far as she could tell, with blonde hair, donning a white kitsune mask and the same black cloak with a white outline that his partner appeared to be wearing. "Senju Tsunade?" inquired the girl. "My name is Uzumaki Karen and this is Menma. We are here to give you something that your grandfather, Senju Hashirama Sama asked us to deliver to you." Confused, Tsunade muttered, "My grandfather. What is it and how do you know him? You two can't be any older than 16. My grandfather died back during the first Shinobi War long before your time." The boy laughed, like the old man would die so damn easily. "Don't tell me you really believe that Senju Hashirama, the man who is spoken about as myth and legend like that of the Rakuta Sennin, would die so easily after defeating both Uchiha Madara and the Kyuubi no Yoko?" Tsunade asked, her eyes narrowed. "Brat, what are you saying?" "Hashirama Sama faked his death back during the first Shinobi War with the help of your grandmother, Mido Sama," Karen clarified. "He finally passed away a few weeks ago in an underground hideaway in the ruins of Uzushio. He asked me once to set you back on the right path and here I am." Tsunade asked, shocked, "Why? You've got to be he was alive all this time?" She realized that they weren't lying to her. If this was a joke, they had no excuse not to, and they had to know that she would kill them. Why wasn't he there when Naokia, his own grandson, needed him then? Despite his power and strength, even he could not defeat the aging process. His medical ninjutsu was rivaled only by your own, allowing him to prolong his life until his body simply couldn't run from the Shinigami any longer, replied Naruto. The old man was tough. There's no doubt about that. Tsunade questioned the 2 Uzumaki, saying, "What do you want from me exactly?" Naruto said, "We're family," even though he couldn't believe what he was saying. He was still getting used to the fact that he now had a family and a clan of his own, even a year later. "And families stick together. We're here to ask you to join us in establishing the Uzumaki Senju clan and bringing peace to this cursed world." Tsunade asked in confusion, "Peace? Hashirama Sama trained us both to bring about a new age for the shinobi world," Karen clarified. He wanted us to bring about a revolution on a scale akin to the founding of the shinobi nations themselves. Wow, that's a big order, Tsunade whimpered. You're talking about going up against the entire continent. It's our least possible action, Naruto answered. The old man gave us something that no one else did. He gave us a chance to do something right and protect the people we care about. The least we can do is try and fulfill his wish for a peaceful world without any war for those he left behind. Tell you what, Tsunade grinned. If you can defeat me, then I'll go with you and I'll even throw in my grandfather's necklace. Shizune trailed off, growing more anxious. Tsunade. Sama. Karen asked, and if we lose? Then you'll leave me alone and I'll never see either of you again, replied Tsunade. They all knew she wouldn't hold back, even though she secretly wanted to lose. One more time, please, just one more time, she begged. All right, then, Naruto gave a nod of approval. Let's go wild. Shirado. Karen cried out as her hand separated from her arm, leaving only a long wire like beam that was covered in numerous tiny spikes resembling bullets. The tiny projectiles burst forth in a puff of smoke and flame, then descended heavily upon the retreating Tsunade. Is she a machine of some sort? Tsunade questioned herself as she dodged the quickly approaching projectiles. She was forced to jump away as they struck the ground surrounding her and burst into a torrent of fire. She thought to herself as she landed back on solid ground, that's an interesting ability. She heard the whisper, Hiraishin no Jutsu, as a kunai with 3 familiar prongs landed next to her. Tsunade thought, that's, and Naruto materialized by her side. The masked blonde exclaimed, Rasengan. As he struck her stomach with the whirling chakra sphere more quickly than she could react. As the spiraling sphere burst and she was blasted back with enough force to break the boulder she had been blasted into, Tsunade thought, shit. Whispering, Infa, in. Kai, she got back to her feet. Chakra that she had long since begun to accumulate soon began to flood her system, causing the seal on her forehead to spread throughout her entire body. Sa za saisei. She exclaimed, applying her now luminous green hand to her wound, which quickly healed in front of their eyes. Naruto said, what the hell is that? Medical ninjutsu, Karen replied. Though it is not as advanced as Hashirama Sama's own. It will undoubtedly make this fight much harder. Naruto shouted, Mokuton, Daijiren no Jutsu. As he raised his arm and it instantly changed into a massive tree that shot at the Senju woman. That's my grandfather's jutsu, Tsunade gasped in disbelief before darting out of sight. She's quick, Naruto thought to himself as she reappeared above him, her leg lifted. Mokuton. Mokuja Heki, he murmured, and a wood dome appeared between them, fixed in place. Hiraishin no Jutsu, he said as he vanished for a split second before resurfacing next to Karen, whom he had sealed with his seal before they had left for the mainland. Tsunade cried out, Sa, Tenkyaku. As she stamped on the dome, causing it to collapse and the surrounding earth to tilt, altering the battlefield's terrain. Jumped again, without a doubt at this point. That is Minato's Hiraishin no Jutsu. However, how could this boy know it when I assumed it died with him? Naruto remarked, her physical strength and chakra control are top-notch. She's stronger than the Sandaime Hokage at any rate. Even to this day she is idolized as the strongest woman in the world, replied Karen. I can certainly see why. Tsunade hurried over to them, saying, you brats. With a dark tone. She whispered, Ranshinsha, and her hands appeared to spark. Gakido. Fa, Jutsukya, in, Karen said, gesturing with her palm up. As Tsunade made contact, her jutsu's chakra was drawn out of her and sucked into what appeared to be a barrier that had formed between the two. Tsunade began, pulling back her other hand and launching a punch intended to take the red-haired girl's head off. How did she? Tendo. Shinra Tensai. Exclaimed Karen, just as Tsunade was blasted away by a gravitational pulse, sending the blonde Senju hurtling into an upside down battlefield. Tsunade shook her head and got back up, thinking, that wasn't a shockwave. At that moment, Karen took off her glasses to display her purple eyes, which were rippled, making the Senju woman flinch. Those Isa, they can't be real. Jiraiya was telling the truth, one person said. Naruto said, I think it's about time we ended this. Who are you two exactly? One of you has my grandfather's bloodline and is able to do the same kind of Jika, Kon ninjutsu as the Yondaime Hokage, while the other has the Rinnegan of all things. I recognize those eyes that were said to be wielded by the Kami no Shinobi, the Rakuda. Senin, Tsunade asked with a scowl. Karen said, we are the ones who are going to bring peace and order. She said, Shikusha da, Kachiyose no Jutsu, clearly, her hand spreading seals across the ground as she touched it. In an instant, Karen found herself perched atop the head of a massive golden lion, bearing a Rinnegan identical to her own. A call? Tsunade formed a hand seal and bit her thumb, thinking. Kachiyose no Jutsu, the enormous slug Katsuyu emerged behind her in a split second. Katsuyu inquired, Tsunade. Sama? Why have you summoned me? I'm facing 2 kids with the bloodlines of my grandfather and the Rakuda. Senin. I can't afford to hold back even if they're kids, Tsunade responded. Katsuyu stumbled to her feet in shock at her summoner's statement, But that's. Tsunade retorted, I know it's not possible, but the proof is right in front of you. Naruto cried out, Kachiyose no Jutsu. As he leapt into the air and a big hawk materialized in a cloud of smoke to capture him. So this is the human realm? It's been a while since I was last summoned here, said the hawk. Is that Katsuyu? Dono? I guess she's my opponent, huh? Sorry to call you to fight after just signing the summoning contract, but I need your help, Naruto stated clearly. The hawk, looking back at the masked blonde riding on his back, almost seemed to smile, why not? It's been a while since I fought someone. The name's Takamaru. Remember it. For the time being, call me Menma, Naruto grinned back behind his mask. I'll tell you my real name when we're not out in the open like this. Takamaru thought to himself, you're an interesting one, and then he flailed his wings and circled to take aim at the enormous slug below. Naruto yelled, let's go. As they turned and dove. It's my grandfather's hawk summoning contract. How could he have it when it's been lost for decades? Gazing up at the hawk that was descending, Tsunade thought. With narrowed eyes, she said, Katsuyu, watch out, just as Karen's golden lion lunged toward the enormous slug. Katsuyu yelled, Zeshi Nensen. As she hurled an acid stream at the lion that was attacking. Karen exclaimed, Gakido. Fa, Jutsu Kya, in. As she rapidly absorbed the acid. As the lion bit into the slug's side and pinned her down, Tsunade thought to herself, so she's even able to absorb that kind of jutsu too. The blonde Senju yelled, get off of her. As she leapt to her feet and gave the lion's jaw a powerful punch that caused it to fly away. Mokuton. Mokasatsu Shibari no Jutsu. Takamaru fell from the sky and halted a few meters above the ground, prompting Naruto to cry out above. Once more, Naruto's arm sprouted off and turned into wood, encircling Katsuyu and securing her in a wooden harness. Surprised, Tsunade exclaimed, Katsuyu. A moment after saying, Katsuyu Debunritsu, Katsuyu appeared to split into hundreds of smaller slugs and tumbled through the holes in the wooden restraint. Finally, Tsunade said, that's enough. A moment later, she said, we're done here. As Takamaru touched down, Naruto questioned. Are you giving up? Takamaru complained, and it was just getting good too. Tsunade said, you two are strong, and she smiled a little. And judging by the fact that you can use Mokuton, you must be a member of the Senju clan. The only other Mokuton user I know has about the same level of skill in using it that you have, but he's twice your age. Only a Senju can possibly wield the full power of that bloodline, so that makes you. Family, she had long since abandoned her family and hadn't considered it yet. Not only did she feel better than she had in years, but she realized that she had been so blind to the fact that her wounds had earlier covered her in blood. It appears that she had also overcome her fear of blood. Karen landed next to the Senju woman and said, so you'll come with us? Yes, Tsunade said, nodding in response to a concerned Shizune. She said, as soon as I give you something, removing her grandfather's necklace. I think this is yours, she said, giving it to Naruto as soon as he got off Takamaru's back. It was my grandfather's. You could buy a mountain with it, though my grandfather originally created it to aid him in suppressing the Biju. I see, Naruto gave a nod. He said, thank you, taking the necklace and putting it on. Shizune asked her master, are you sure about this, Tsunade? Sama? Tsunade smiled back over Shizune's shoulder, saying, it's okay, Shizune. I think this is what my brother and your uncle would have wanted. Shizune nodded, grinning with knowledge. Okay, she said, Let's head home, suggested Naruto. Land of Rain. Akatsuki Tower, AIM. Of all the shinobi villages, Omegakure no Sato was the most industrialized and possibly the most notorious. The only true reason this village survived the last 3 shinobi wars was because of the legendary salamander Hanzo, who led and protected it. It was a small country that was frequently used as a battleground by the more powerful nations, but ever since it had gone into lockdown, it had become extremely difficult to even enter the country. That's why none of the other nations even knew that AIM had a new leader until the god of pain, Uzumaki Nagato, and his angel, Konan, arrived and killed Hanzo and all of his supporters. Nagato had gone one step further and made an alias for himself, Pain, who along with Konan and their friend Yahiko had originally founded the Akatsuki. Their benefactor, a man going by the name Uchiha Madara, had approached them now that Yahiko was dead and presented them with a plan to free this cursed world from the bonds of hatred. With the help of the Rinnegan's outer path, they would be able to summon the terrifying statue known as the Gedo Mazo, where they would imprison the 9 Biju. After the statue was sealed, Nagato could use the captured Biju inside to craft a weapon that was instantly capable of destroying an entire country. This weapon would be supplied to various factions, so when it was used, everyone would be afraid to engage in combat or face complete annihilation. But there was a pretty big setback to that plan. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki died a year ago, so that means that it will be 8 more years before it reforms. With the death of the Sanbi Jinchuriki that was also killed last year during the recent Kiri Civil War, the Sanbi should be reformed within 2 years. We will capture and seal the Sanbi as soon as it reforms before Kiri can reclaim it. That way our actions will go unnoticed, Pain told the other, holographic, members of their group, the Akatsuki. And when do we move? An irritated Hidan questioned. Jashin. Sama demands sacrifices. We will continue to act as a mercenary group for now, and in 7 years we will begin hunting the Biju. By the time that the Kyuubi reforms we will have already captured the rest of the Biju, Pain responded. Dismissed, the holograms vanished a moment later. Konan questioned from his side, Nagato? Konan, I'm fine, Nagato answered. This is a minor setback. That is all. Yeah, Uchiha Madara said, emerging from the shadows. I didn't think that the Jinchuriki would disappear like this after living in Konoha after the Kyuubi attack for 12 years. Pain answered, it's just an extension of time. We will still capture the Biju. It will just take us a bit longer to accomplish our goals before we are to bring peace to this world. Madara thought to himself, you are a fool, Nagato, as his Sharingan lit up through the eyehole in his orange spiral mask. Images of his former life as Uchiha Obito flashed through his mind, and he thought, there is no peace other than the moon's eye plan. Rin, I'll make a world in which you exist. Realm of Summon. Shikachurin. Because they don't actually live in the outside world where shinobi are always at war, summon creatures are extremely difficult to locate. Finding a portal that could transport you there or signing a contract with one of the summoned races were the only ways to get in contact with them. The majority of the summoned races each had their own small dimensional space to call home. When they were young, the people who would eventually become known as Sannin discovered these portals and used their negotiation skills to sign contracts with toads, slugs, and snakes. Surpassed only by the Biju themselves, 3 summoned creatures emerged as the most formidable and dangerous in this strange world of theirs among the many others. The first group was the Maya Bokuzen Toads, who were formidable fighters capable of growing up to the size of Biju and were commanded by Gamabunta, the powerful toad boss, and the 2 elders, Fukasaku and Shima. The White Snake Sage possessed the true power within their race, but the second were the deadly snakes of Ria, Cheetah led by Manda. At last, the Hawks of Shikachurin appeared. Gyaku Kachiyose no Jutsu, said Takamaru, sweeping his claw across the stone floor as seals appeared. A moment later, Naruto materialized in a puff of smoke, causing him to stumble slightly before catching himself. Naruto questioned, what just happened? As a 3-pronged kunai materialized in his hand. I called for you, Takamaru replied. Welcome to the home of the Hawk clan. The boss lady wants to speak with you. Alright, Naruto said, nodding while putting the kunai away. Show the way, he said. Follow me, Takamaru commanded, pointing through the enormous cavern that had been hollowed out. With a wave of his wings, he launched himself into the air and soared toward a sizable pool of water situated at the opposite side of the cavern. Naruto trailed closely behind, running alongside Takamaru and landing by the cavern wall. I've brought him, the hawk announced. An enormous female hawk emerged from the water and said, "Good." In a quiet female voice. Uzumaki Naruto, the discarded child of prophecy. "It's a pleasure to meet you, savior of this world." Naruto shot back, saying, "I'm not a savior yet." "And how do you know my name?" The female hawk replied, "Would you rather that I call you Menma instead? Or perhaps Senju Hashirama? A name means nothing to me. You simply are. I am Setsuna, the current leader of the Hawk clan, and as our summoner I expect great things from you just like my mother expected much the same from him." "Doesn't everyone?" murmured Naruto. "What did you call me here for?" Setsuna answered, "I'm going to train you to fulfill your destiny. As powerful as you are still not strong enough to complete the task that has been given to you. So as our summoner I expect you to be the best there is. To that end I will personally train you in the hidden arts of our clan. I will train you in Senjutsu, here in our home." Naruto questioned, "Senjutsu?" Not knowing what the term meant. Setsuna clarified, "It is the power of the world itself. Those who master it are granted the title of sage like the Rakuda Sennin of old. Do you wish to learn, summoner?" "Yes," Naruto gave a nod. "Then shall we begin?" Jinchuriki Seal. The mindscape of Naruto. He had been away from Konoha for 4 years and had been with Yuki for 3 of those years. The enormous and dangerous Kyuubi no Yoko was imprisoned behind the seal's massive steel gates, and 16 year old Naruto stood before them without his mask on. After leaving Konoha, he had grown enormously, and now he was prepared to make the next significant move toward greatness. Naruto said, "Spooky glare," as usual, when he saw the fox. The Kyuubi trailed off, eyes narrowed. "Naruto. You." As Naruto tore off the paper seal on the gate and threw off his cloak, he asked, "What are you plotting?" "Shut up and let me focus, damn it," Naruto shot back, pulling his jacket up to reveal the stomach seal. He muttered, "Here we go," as he removed the right arm sleeve to reveal the key seal that, 4 years prior, he had obtained from his father's clone. The Kyuubi's eyes widened as the seal broke, murmuring, "You." "I see," he uttered as he broke through the last of the seal and unlocked the steel gates. The fox yelled, "You've made one big mistake, Naruto," and unleashed a shockwave that destroyed the sewer. Like Mindscape, leaving behind a wet floor and a pitch black void. "I'm up for the challenge," Naruto answered. With amusement, the Kyuubi sneered, "And what about the real you?" "The real me?" a bewildered Naruto inquired. "He refers to me," a sinister, contorted voice behind him said. "What?" "I'm surprised," thought Naruto. It surprised him greatly to see another him with red demonic eyes and covered in the Kyuubi's chakra with 3 tails, as he hadn't anticipated seeing anyone else in here save the fox. "Who the hell are you?" the clone asked him. "The demon." Naruto answered, "I'm you. I'm the real you." The Kyuubi chuckled darkly. "You'd need to deal with your real self first before even attempting to gain control of my power," we said. "But that doesn't matter anymore because I'm going to kill both of you right here and now." Naruto observed the start assembling red and blue chakra spheres into a sizable black ball at its mouth and thought, "This isn't going to be easy." OSH*T. The Kyuubi yelled, "Bijudama," as he swung the condensed chakra sphere toward his 2 Jinchuriki. In response, Naruto raised a 3-pronged kunai and said, "Jika, Kon Kekai." Before Naruto turned and let go of the sphere behind him, directly at the shadowy Naruto, the sphere crashed into the barrier and was sucked in, pulling on more of the Kyuubi's chakra, the dark. Naruto Ayami's eyes grew wide as the sphere swallowed him and burst into a dome of destructive power. The Kyuubi and the other Biju were truly on different levels. Yami angrily exclaimed, "You're going to pay for that," as the smoke started to clear. His entire form was now shrouded in a red haze of chakra. His face had turned into a black mask with white eyes. He waved 4 tails in his wake, and based on the bubbling around him, it seemed inevitable that he would soon begin to sprout more tails. Naruto thought to himself as he formed a series of hand seals. "I have to take them out one at a time or I can't win." He cried out, "Mokuton, Mokuryu no Jutsu," as a massive wooden dragon rose up out of the earth and encircled the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi growled angrily, "This is," as he bit into the wooden dragon, only to have it rapidly and dangerously drain his chakra. "Damn you, Naruto." Turning to face the now Attacking Yami, Naruto thought, now to deal with the other one. He muttered, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and two clones materialized by his side. The original held a tiny rotating chakra ball in his hand as the three swiftly joined their hands. As soon as wind chakra was infused into the spiraling sphere, spinning white blades were created around the center of the ball, causing a bell-like screech to reverberate throughout the mindscape. Yoko Rasengan! Yami exclaimed, conjuring up his own red demonic chakra sphere in his right hand. As the two attacks collided, the original Naruto exclaimed, Futon, Rasengan. Red and blue chakra roared and tore at the shattered mindscape, creating a windstorm around the two. The winds suddenly subsided, revealing Naruto and Yami standing facing each other with their backs to each other and their hands raised. A moment of silence, then Yami fell to his knees, still covered in the chakra of the Kyuubi, just as a fifth and sixth tail appeared, soon to be followed by an exoskeleton made of white bones. Yami stammered, I can't lose here, as the chakra began to rapidly overwhelm him. Mokuton. Kakuon Nidan Suishu. Was the cry out of Naruto as 10 wooden pillars rose up around Kyuubified. Yami and a seal materialized on his hand. It's over for you. Naruto angrily slammed his hand into the back of his darker side. He jumped back to dodge Yami's chakra tails, and the pillars quickly pinned him down as a green line formed between. Yami cried out, Damn it! As his body broke apart and he was drawn into Naruto via the green chakra line. One down, Naruto said, turning to face the Kyuubi. One to go. The Kyuubi trailed off, angry, you. The wood dragon shattered around him, and he yelled, You think I'll just submit to you without a fight? I'm going to rip you to shreds. Naruto whispered, Senjutsu, Senin Moto, as natural energy surged through his body. His pupil lengthened into vertical slits, encircling his eyes in rings of dark red, symbolizing his ascension into Sage mode. His eyes turned gold. It took him 2 years to master this form through training with the Hawks, and he was glad he did because otherwise, he never would have considered engaging the Kyuubi in battle in this manner. He exclaimed, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. As hundreds of shadow clones materialized all around him. The Kyuubi growled, You haven't won yet. As Naruto leapt high into the air with 2 clones. In a moment, the 2 clones united their hands as they always had and created a recognizable chakra ball. The resounding bell-like screech was produced by infusing wind chakra into it once more, but this time, the wind blades on the sphere extended, giving it the appearance of a shuriken. Naruto yelled, Futon, Rasen Shuriken, and hurled the chakra shuriken squarely at the Kyuubi. With wide eyes, the demon fox watched as the shuriken closed in, striking him in the nose and then exploding into a rotating ball of power and wind that seemed to engulf his whole body. The original Naruto yelled to his clones, Now! The wind ball burst, driving the Kyuubi back, but not before the clones swiftly gathered the fox's chakra into themselves and dispelled it. When the final chakra left Naruto's body, his clones vanished and were given back to him. His form was enshrouded in a golden flame. Like chakra shroud, and a seal matrix that extended from his stomach to his shoulders, creating a necklace of Magatama around his neck. Like before he opened the seal, the well-known key. Seal stretched from his shoulder to his palm. The Kyuubi trailed off in shock and rage, You! That form. The Rakuda. Senin? Naruto shook himself and said, This chakra is. Before bringing the key. Seal to his new Jinchuriki seal. Whispering, Fuin, he rotated the seal. A number of torii descended from the emptiness above, quickly pinning the Kyuubi to the damp ground. The Kyuubi then growled and flailed as the torii interlocked, enclosing the vanquished creature in a cage. The Kyuubi roared, sinking back into the darkness behind the new seal, I won't forget this, Naruto. Naruto turned away and apologized to Kyuubi, saying, I'm going to have to ask you to wait just a little longer. Just hang in there and someday you'll be free again. Humans never express their true feelings, growled the Kyuubi from the shadows. Perhaps that is accurate, Naruto conceded. But you've known me for my entire life. You should know by now that I prefer to let my actions speak for me better than my words ever could. Shortly thereafter he disappeared. Old man Rakuda, Kurama, the Kyuubi, mused in silence. Is he the person you mentioned? Konoha, the land of fire, or training ground 7. Uchiha Sasuke, then 20. 1. was standing in front of the memorial stone, staring at the name of the one person he would always consider a hero. Nearly 9 years ago to the day, his best friend and rival passed away, and the reason for it was that he was too frail to save him at the time. Undoubtedly, Haruno Sakura and Sarutobi Konohamaru were anticipating their rendezvous on one of the village's southern bridges, which was constructed to span the street that traversed the village. Regarding Kakashi, the now 35-year-old Hitaki Kakashi approached his esteemed pupil and said, "Back again, Sasuke?" He said, "You've been coming here more than me lately." With his sensei standing beside him, Sasuke countered, "At least now I understand why you're always late. If you could go back and do it all over again, would you?" "Definitely," Kakashi said, nodding as he looked at the memorial stone bearing the names of his family members, his teammates. "None of them should have died, and I'm worse than trash for not being able to save any of them." Sasuke inquired inquisitively, "Is there something you wanted? You're usually here before me." The Uchiha froze at Kakashi's words. "It's about your brother," in response. "Hokage Sama has just informed me. Itachi is on the move along with the rest of the Akatsuki organization. Word has it that they've already captured the Sanbi, Rokubi and Nanabi. It appears that the reason they've been keeping their heads down for all these years is because they've been waiting for the Kyuubi to reform after it died with Naruto 9 years ago." "The Kyuubi," was all Sasuke said. "We can't let Itachi get control of something like that." "And we won't," Kakashi said with a nod. "Hokage Sama thinks that the Akatsuki will be coming after Konohamaru-kun soon, so he wants us on the move as much as possible so they aren't able to track him down as easily as they can if he remains in Konoha." Sasuke questioned, "Where are we going?" "Suna," was Kakashi's response. "It's just a diplomatic mission. Land of Sound. Otto Orochimaru, the self-declared Otokage of Otogakure no Sato, had been preparing and calculating for the past 9 years in an attempt to fulfill his dream of obtaining the Sharingan. He had intended to take over Uchiha's body in order to obtain it, since with it he could master any kind of jutsu. Sadly, the Uchiha clan's eldest heir had killed most of the clan, leaving only that man and his younger brother alive. This had the unfortunate side effect of narrowing down his options for potential heirs. To make matters worse, he later learned that the Mangekyo Sharingan had been awakened by both of the Uchiha heirs, making it nearly impossible for him to assume control of their bodies directly. He was forced to give up on the idea of adopting a Uchiha's body until one of them got married and had kids because of this significant setback. He would have to bide his time until Itachi or Sasuke's offspring were old enough for him to try and seize control. But there was no hurry. He was immortal, and he could wait indefinitely if necessary. He would eventually acquire a valuable Sharingan of his own, and by then, he would have mastered the art of immortality jutsu to the extent that he could lead a normal human life in his new vessel before having to transfer. It was a matter of time before. His head shifted to the side as he heard the sound of a kunai approaching him as he turned a corner in the dimly lit hallway. He was surprised and recognized as a familiar three-pronged kunai flew past him, causing his eyes to widen. A gasp and a flash of yellow light signaled the arrival of an equally familiar chakra sphere in his stomach. "Hiraishin no Jutsu," said the assailant. Rasengan, the whirling sphere burst violently, propelling him backward and through the intersection's wall. Remarking, "About what I expected," he lifted his hood to reveal his white kitsune mask. Orochimaru yelled, "W. Who are you?" as he emerged from the debris, clutching his injured side. His mouth gaped open, allowing another Orochimaru to emerge while the first one deflated and fell to the ground. The Otokage demanded, "You dare to attack me here?" Naruto said emphatically, "It's about time I stepped out into the open. I will show this world the peace that it has never had with my power, the powerful of Senju Hashirama." Senju Hashirama. Orochimaru stumbled over his words and laughed. "Don't take me for a fool. He's long dead. You can't be him. You just can't. I don't think I need to defend myself to people like you," Naruto shot back, making a hand seal. Mokuton. Jukai Katan, as if a whole forest were exploding from the earth upward, splintering the ceiling and rocking the whole base. Orochimaru thought to himself as he landed on a branch, that was. There's no denying that the Shodai Hokage invented the Mokuton Jutsu. He must be related to Tsunade based on his blonde hair. Did she secretly conceive a child while she was away from Konoha? Naruto asked from one of the nearby branches, "Should we continue?" Ninjendo, Karen muttered as she tore Jirobo, Sakin, and Yukon's souls out by force. She spoke calmly, as if she hadn't just taken 3 lives and treated them like nothing. You should all bow in the presence of a goddess. With a tone full of rage, Tayuya asked, "Who the hell are you, bitch?" "I'll be the one to bring about peace and order," Karen answered, raising her hand. The final line, "and I believe I told you to bow," was met with a powerful surge of chakra that nearly brought the 2 surviving Sound 4 members to their knees. Kidomaru yelled, "Like hell I'll bow to you," as his level 2 curse seal came into effect and his hands swiftly formed a webbed bow. "Kumo Senkya, Suzaku," he uttered while aiming an arrow squarely at the Uzumaki lady. Karen said, "Tendo. Shinra Tensai," as gravity erupted all around her and burst apart. Tayuya and Kidomaru were flung back with such incredible force that the room they were in was destroyed along with the arrow. The part of the subterranean base that was exposed to the sun was where Karen had just left a huge crater. "They're not even worth my time," she exclaimed, then hurried off. No matter how hard she slashed at him, he would not die. His Suika no Jutsu enabled him to transform into water, effectively allowing her swings to pass through him without causing any long-term harm. Her partner was facing a similar challenge with the other one. The orange-haired monster had unleashed his level 3 curse seal, turning him into a ferocious animal. Suigetsu questioned as soon as he saw the blade, "That's the Kabikariba-cha, huh? Finally I can start my collection." Haku shot back a glare. "You are not getting your hands on this sword." Suigetsu laughed, "You can't even hurt me," as Haku leapt aside and rapidly formed a pair of hand seals. Inquiringly, "Now what are you doing?" He posed. Haku exclaimed, "Hayatan, Namida Rada C." as ice started to form at Suigetsu's feet. Suigetsu stumbled, frozen in a block of ice. What is th? His body resembling water serving as a fuel source for his icy prison as well as a catalyst. Haku let out a sigh and used her chakra to fuse the Kabikariba-cha onto her back. With this jutsu, she could freeze her opponents in a flash and use their own chakra cores to maintain the freeze. The monstrous form of Jugo laughed not too far away, launching a flurry of chakra beams at the swiftly approaching Hyuga Hinata. She easily sidestepped the attack, turned on heel, and lunged directly at Jugo, demonstrating the effectiveness of her Byakugan. A moment after Jugo started laughing, the Hyuga Kunoichi's hands began to form chakra into 2 large lion heads. She yelled, "Ya, ho sa shiken," as she forcefully struck Jugo's chest with the chakra lion heads. With 2 large holes blown in his chest, he was blown back and screamed as he hit the ground with an echoing crash, sending smoke and dirt billowing up from the impact. "Are you done too?" Haku inquired following a brief pause. "He's dead," Hinata nodded in response. "We should regroup with the others." Haku nodded, saying, "Agreed," and the 2 leapt into the trees. The longer this continued, the more concerned Orochimaru was growing. He had failed to land even a single blow on his masked attacker thus far. It was Senju Hashirama, of all people, who had been thrashing and beating him. He had never been so outmatched by a rival since Hanzo had defeated him and his allies back in the Second Shinobi War. It was very hard to hit Naruto when he attacked because he would simply teleport to one of the nearby kunai. The Otokage had learned that Namikaze Minato, the cursed brat, was thought to be the fastest man to have ever lived after he managed to avoid the Raikage's fastest blow during a fight with the Hachibi Jinchuriki years ago. There appeared to be another now. Suddenly, he was challenged by a Senju of the Mokuton bloodline who had learned the Minato's Hiraishin no Jutsu. If this man's strength was any indication of what legend Senju Hashirama had left behind after leaving this world, then, whoever he was definitely living up to it. Naruto inquired, looking unimpressed, and he actually was. "Are you finished?" He had anticipated a more formidable opponent in this battle, one who could rival Senju Tsunade, but this one was pitiful. There was simply no way the snake summoner could match the alleged genius of the Sannin. Honestly, Naruto would have killed him long ago if it weren't for his incredible ability to regenerate and shed skin. "Do not look at me with those eyes," Orochimaru sneered back, his legs uniting into a tail that resembled a snake. With a sudden burst of speed, he vanished and slithered around fallen trees before leaping at Naruto, the Kusanagi no Tsurugi materializing from his mouth, poised to stab his foe. He detested those eyes because, as a brilliant child who was praised as one of the greatest shinobi of his generation, he had always been met with looks of pride or respect. He was now the object of both fear and hatred, though he was unaffected by the latter since he always took pleasure in the fact that those who despised him were unable to equal his greatness. However, this man had eyes that were worse than Itachi's cursed ones. Like many others, Itachi used to look at him with indifference, but this man treated him as though he were unimportant. Idly, he wondered if this was the same feeling that had overtaken Kakuzu decades earlier when he had faced Senju Hashirama, believing that this man was, in fact, the second Kami no Shinobi. As the sword struck and pierced Naruto's chest, he thought, too slow. Orochimaru yelled, "Die!" with a glare on his face, only to have his eyes enlarge when the man he had just stabbed broke apart and turned into wood. A copy of wood? His thoughts were taken aback. When did he change? Mokuton. Kajukai Ka Rin, resounded in Naruto's mind as a gigantic plant emerged from the earth. It blasted gas, engulfing the surrounding area in a mist and compelling the Otokage to straighten his legs and leap away. Orochimaru cried out, "Futon! Daitopa!" as a gust of wind carried the gas away, enabling him to escape. He said, "Mandara no Jin," dropping to the ground once he was far enough away and spitting hundreds of snakes at the masked blonde who was chasing after him. Not good enough, Naruto thought to himself as he made a hand seal and looked out at the snake wall that was attacking. With a clear voice, he said, "Mokuton! Mokuryu no Jutsu," just as a huge wooden dragon reared up and turned behind him. As the wood dragon dove upon the snakes, he leapt up onto its head and tore into them, quickly destroying them. "I've had enough of this game of cat and mouse, snake. You!" Orochimaru growled before slamming his hands onto the ground and creating a series of hand seals. He exclaimed, "Kuchios, Sanya Rashomon!" as 3 enormous Rashomon gates materialized out of puffs of smoke and seals began to spread throughout the ground. That ought to contain him. Naruto observed the scene in front of him and thought, that looks like Hashirama. Sensei's jutsu, though only 3 of the gates appeared. Senjutsu. Senin Moto, Naruto said quietly as his body began to absorb natural energy. His eyes turned yellow, and dark rings surrounded them. Marks stretched across his face, and a moment later, a dark circlia, albeit one that was obscured by his mosca, formed on his forehead. He muttered, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," as 2 shadow clones materialized beside him. Is that it's not possible? Is he employing Senjutsu? The sound of a bell, like screech, filled the air, and Orochimaru thought in terror. Naruto held his newly formed chakra shuriken in his hand and narrowed his eyes as the 3 large demonic gates opened, and the 2 clones he'd just created withdrew. He yelled, "Futon! Rasen Shuriken!" and threw the chakra shuriken at them. It passed through all 3 gates without any problems, then grew into a revolving ball of destruction that tore apart the final gate and made Orochimaru retreat. What strength! Orochimaru thought, not without a hint of concern. It had sliced through all 3 of the Rashomon gates as if they were made of paper, and then exploded with enough power to destroy one entirely. I have to let go of everything, he thought to himself as his shape twisted and expanded upward. He cried out, "Yamada no Jutsu!" as he transformed into an enormous, 8-headed demonic snake. Naruto was impressed for the first time since the fight began. The only things he could compare it to were either a Biju or the kind of jutsu that Hashirama was capable of when he was at his best. Similar to Karen's sensory abilities, Naruto could sense the chakra signatures of people while in sage mode. However, when he combined this ability with his ability to sense negative emotions, he was almost completely aware of everything that was in his field of vision. He could feel nothing at all from this monstrosity in front of him right now save a haze and a foul, dark chakra that was twisted to absurdity. It was no longer even alive. Gazing at the hideous being in front of him, Naruto thought, from what I gather, Orochimaru is obsessed with immortality. Could this be the outcome of his self experiments? Orochimaru growled, "Die!" as all 8 of its heads united and began directing beams of dark chakra from their mouths into a purple sphere that was in front of it. Naruto pondered the sight, saying, "That looks like the Bijudama." It's likely that he got the inspiration for this jutsu from witnessing a Biju in action, he said, observing the beam ball constrict before shooting a tiny, golden beam of light in his direction. Hiraishin no Jutsu, he muttered as he vanished, disappearing just in time to see the beam hit the spot where he had been standing moments before and burst into a wall of flames. Orochimaru laughed ominously, "Kukakuku. Are you dead yet? You cannot defeat me, mortal." But then froze when another bell, like screech filled the air. He cried out, "What?" as he looked up and noticed the sky itself being parted by a four-pointed shuriken shape. With another chakra shuriken in hand, Naruto emerged from its center and hurled it swiftly towards the enormous eight-headed snake. Futon. Rasen Shuriken. He cried out as it sliced through one of the creature's heads and then grew larger, engulfing the thing in a ball of force and wind that swiftly destroyed it. He said, "Regenerate from that," as he touched down. "It's over." Orochimaru exclaimed, "It's not over yet." As he rose from the earth in the shape of a massive snake with his face contorted. Fushi Tensai. He yelled as he dove directly at Naruto and quickly engulfed his entire body. The mindscape of Naruto, Jinchuriki Seal. Orochimaru noticed right away that he was in front of a large cage, pinned to a wall by wooden stakes as something that had never happened before. What was happening? Where were the tortured souls of those who had already sacrificed their lives so that he could live longer? Naruto emerged from the shadows and stood between him and the cage door. "You know, I may have been nicer on the outside, but honestly I'm not in the mood to be all that merciful to you," he said to him. "This isn't possible," Orochimaru gave the blonde a scowl. With a, "You tried to take my body," Naruto answered. "And now I'll take your life," he said, turning to leave the cage as crimson fluid seeped out beneath the door. Orochimaru asked in shock and mounting panic, "What?" as a frighteningly white smile and two red eyes emerged from the shadows behind the cage door. He yelled, "Wait! You can't do this to me!" to the blonde wearing a mask. He trailed off, "That's..." as he noticed what appeared to be a large demonic fox with 9 tails inside the cage. The Kyuubi. "But... You can't be. The Kyuubi brat died 9 years ago." Whispering, "Goodbye Orochimaru," Naruto continued to walk until he was no longer visible. Orochimaru cried out, "You can't do this to me. I am immortal." As the red liquid rose up and engulfed his body. His screams were short-lived. Battlefield, land of sound. For the simple reason that he was the world's greatest liar, Yakushi Kabuto was the best spy in the elemental nations. The man had accepted his position as the right-hand man of one of the most dangerous men alive, having grown up as a nobody. But now everything was different. They had appeared out of nowhere and completely destroyed everyone and everything in their path. He had searched for Orochimaru Sama, but by the time he got there, all he could see was the massive white snake that had once been Orochimaru, now broken up into pieces, and a lone figure standing in the middle of the chaos. The masked figure turned to face Kabuto, who swallowed as he watched him walk right by without even looking at him. His gaze fell on his former master's remains, and he couldn't help but feel lost. He had no idea what to do with his life after serving the man for so long. Maybe it was time for the servant to take charge and become the master. When Naruto got to the location where his teammates were waiting for him, he saw that Haku and Hinata appeared to be unharmed despite having a few scratches on them. As he got closer, Karen looked up, and he gave her a nod. "Orochimaru has passed away," declared Naruto. "It's time we stepped out of the shadows and finally brought peace to this cursed world." "It started," declared Karen.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.